Cheers, my brother.
What's happening, man?
What's going on, Jason? How are you, buddy?
I'm fantastic. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. Your Halloween costume, sir, is on its way.
Fantastic.
The days when each piece is
Fantastic.
supposed to arrive.
Nice.
But yeah, man, got fucking cold here.
Is it cold? What you got?
We're gonna have frost tonight, man. We're gonna get down to like mid-30s.
No shit. Yeah, we're running about 50s here in the morning. Getting to 70s, 80s afternoon. So we're getting there. Not all it could be, but it's coming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
so
I did I worked my shift this morning, and I'm now officially off for 1 week. So that's fantastic. I'm happy.
Nice.
I've been dying for a vacation.
And where are you going, sir?
Well, I'm going to hang around the house. I want to finish that guitar. Damn it. Finally. And midweek, we are taking the kids to Tennessee, to Dollywood, the amusement park up there. So that should be a good time.
Right on.
Yeah.
And I'll be traveling as well.
Yeah, you're going down south, right?
Yeah, I'm going to Arkansas.
Man,
check out this place, 5-bedroom house, 16 acres, kind of like an artist retreat type of thing. I'm looking for the almost not quite official or done logo, but I just want to show people if I can. Do you mind?
Yeah. No, I don't mind at all.
All right, let me see if I can find it. So yeah, tell me about your week while I locate this, because I got way too much shit on my phone.
Yeah, no, it was good. And my kidney shit, eased up. So that was good. So I was able to sleep my 4 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds kind of screwy, but it was. I'll take what I get.
Steve will be up to me shortly.
Yeah, and traffic was a mother. I don't know what was going on this week.
Right.
More people moving. I don't know why, but yeah, we got through it. And I'm trying to think what else I did.
All right.
Yeah, man, that's it.
Just got to fix the A. It's capitalized, but then I'll start sending you some more stuff. But yeah, Knuckle Dragger Guitars by Jason Clark.
That's right. Yeah, we're gonna try to start kicking that up a little bit too.
Yeah, so you could really be a Neanderthal in your man cave playing your Knuckle Dragger.
Mm-hmm. Big hairy knuckles, baby.
Right?
Yeah.
So speaking of big hairy knuckles, how's your mom doing?
I'm gonna tell you said that.
Love you, Yvonne.
She's good, man. She's doing her thing.
Nice. Oh, yeah. And one of the funny parts of last week's episode, Jason was in rare form,
and I don't remember.
Little hammered, little early.
I don't remember much of it, so forgive me in advance.
We'll just play this and just remember to like and share, and of course subscribe if you would. But I was told that we should release that 3-minute segment of the like thing as a short, and make it even shorter for the advertisement, because it's making fun of people not liking the video. Is pretty funny. But you were in rare form, Jason.
Well, if you say so. I mean, I'd have to go back and watch. But
how do you like my beard now? Dude, I can't wait to stop wearing masks, man. See what this shit does to me?
Dude, you still wearing masks out there?
Yeah, I work at a medical clinic.
Oh.
So we still have to do it there because there's people with low immunity in general.
Yeah, but don't they know about all the studies that prove that they don't work?
It's one of the 3 exceptions to the CDC. But other, like in hospitals, they're not wearing masks. So
yeah, I mean, it passes right through that. It's smaller than the fabric. I mean,
right. But I work with people who have diabetes or amputees.
Yeah. I mean, that's
kidneys aren't working. Their heart attack.
I get it. It's cool, but I'm just it's a weird time.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Jason wished they just go back to the old days and wear paper bags like he's used to.
Yeah, with the eye holes like this.
Right.
Hey,
okay, so as you know,
you're
Halloween
safe, man.
Yeah. Speaking of masks, so Halloween is dude, to me it's like Christmas, man. I love Halloween.
Yeah,
My brother loved Halloween.
He always did.
It's such a fun
Yeah.
time, and I'm so bummed that kids are kind of relegated to trick-or-treating in malls. And
Yeah, you always put those, like, you take those like candy corn pictures of your Peter and everything.
dude, first of all, if you hand out candy corn, fuck you, like that. Come on, man. It's the one day, most likely it's raining or sleeting. The kids are freezing, and you give them a
candy corn.
candy corn.
Yeah, all the kids love
Or like
candy
3
corn.
pennies that get all like the
Yeah.
schmutz at the end of the bag.
Here's an old apple that's got about 2 days left on it. You're good.
Yeah.
It's
Hey,
mealy, but you'll be fine.
Yeah. Here, have an apple. Real okay. Okay, that dude's getting his pumpkin smash.
Right. Dog shit on the doorstep.
Yeah, I would hand out comic books, man.
Yeah, right on. Who doesn't like that?
Comic books are $1. At least it wasn't fucking. It's like once we ran out, it was cash.
Yeah.
But we go buy like say have these things. You can get like 10 comics for like $5 or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's 20 neighborhood kids, so I'd get a bunch of comic books and something different.
They
your brain and not their teeth.
Up here, there's a town near here called Greer, and I heard it on the radio. They said that Greer's got statistically drinking and driving statistics. They're high, and apparently around Halloween, a lot of the people leave out beer and booze for the parents.
Adults.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
We used to give out cold ones to the parents.
Nice. Yeah. I like it.
Or coffee, whatever.
Yeah. But, beer, coffee.
Right. Absolutely.
Everybody loves those two things.
Right. So Steve has just arrived. We're going to bring in Steve real shortly.
Oh, Steve.
Here we go. Steve, what's happening?
Hey, guys.
Man. How you doing?
All right.
Good to see you.
Looking good, man. So you just got over the COVID, then you throw your back out. Well, you look good. It's better to look good than to feel good.
Oh,
right.
Man, it was terrible.
You got the COVID, man. Really?
Yeah, it went through the family. I got it. I probably got it at school.
Yeah.
But I kept plugging away.
Yeah.
I
had it about a month or two ago. Yeah, it's the fatigue part really sucked.
Yeah, I was tired, and I'm teaching middle schoolers now all day, and man, I was my ass was dragging for about 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it was tough.
That was the roughest part. It was just like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Keep going. Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah. So Jason's really looking forward to me doing V Meets the Alien.
I'm dying for it, man. I mean,
what is that
thing they expected?
It's how Vince
seriously
saves.
Is that one that you're lining up?
Yeah. Vince is gonna save the world. He's gonna save the planet through his.
My character wakes up mid anal implant and seeks revenge.
He's armed with only a bottle of Viagra, and he's gonna save the world.
Right. Anyway, so we have Steve on. Steve is an author as well. I'm an author of Reboot Jesus,
and I'm hoping to be an author someday.
Yeah, so we'll get on it, man.
Yeah, man. I'm trying.
Chop.
Yeah, I need a new job where I have a life, so I can.
Hey, 10 minutes a day when you're taking a shit on your phone.
You just have to start.
Yeah.
Put one word in front of the other.
That's about it. You're right.
Absolutely. So let's bring on our guest for the week, author Barb Shadow.
Hey, Barb.
How are you?
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
So thank you for being on in the midst of your travels.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely.
Where have you been traveling?
Darren and I are in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania right now.
Nice.
Cool.
And where is my main man?
We'll give a shout out to Darren, your former guest and pod family member.
Hey. There he is.
Absolutely. What's up, man? So, okay, so you're also a paranormal investigator, and you work with the paranormal. Well, what's the name of the Paranormal Society?
Sullivan Paranormal Society.
And they're on Facebook?
Yes.
And you can find them at?
They're at Sullivan Ghosts. You can. They're basically Facebook, and everything is really just channels through me.
Okay, gotcha. And your information.
It is me. My information.
BarbShadow.com is
Yes.
your website.
That's my website. You can also find me at FromTheShadowsPublishing.com. And that's got all of my books, book updates, upcoming events, places I'll be.
Right on. And you have a book signing coming up, don't you?
I do have a book signing at Barnes & Noble in Vestal, New York on October 22nd.
Great.
Nice.
Right on. Are you excited?
I am tremendously excited.
That's great.
Hey, I bought a Kramer, a Robin's Egg Blue Kramer bass from McNeil's Music in Vestal, New York. Darren probably remembers that.
Yeah, I know that.
Nice.
Yeah. That's been a million years ago.
It's still there.
Oh, nice. Okay,
Yeah.
glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So, Barb,
Yeah.
when did you first become a writer, or when did you discover that you wanted to be a writer? Because sometimes they're two different.
I've always been writing. I was writing books when I was 11, 12 years old.
Oh,
And,
wow.
you know, I was an avid reader, and I always wanted to write. I wanted to teach writing. I was absolutely involved all through my school years. And I majored in writing and English writing arts in college. And then, you know, I graduated, I got a real job. I had kids and all of that. And just a few years ago, about 5 years ago, I had a challenge from a friend of mine. And she was like, you know, with the NaNoWriMo, she said, I think you could do it. I think you could do it. Write a novel in a month.
Yeah.
And I sat down to do
That's
it.
a crazy challenge.
It was nuts.
Yeah.
And
In a month.
Yeah, it's
at
a lot.
the end of the month, I had 60,000 words down, which qualified as, you know, their novel for the month. But then I went ahead and I finished that book, and I began the sequel and just kept going with it. And right now I'm working on book 5 in that series.
That's awesome.
Good for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Totally
It's
awesome.
a lot of fun.
Yeah, good for
So
you.
your first book was which one?
A Step into Darkness.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Well,
Touch.
almost.
Oh,
Touch. Still
That's
No.
what before.
sorry, I can't. I don't have my right glasses on. Damn, I must have done that one twice. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You can put them all up. That's fine. I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, but
put them all up. Come on.
right.
But A Step into Darkness, I just started telling the story of a paranormal investigator who goes into an abandoned asylum alone.
Mhm.
And basically it was his story of doing all the things wrong and what happened to him. And the series just took off.
Nice.
So, what are your experiences as a self-published author?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, a lot
It's
more
the
freedom.
best. It would be great to be picked up traditionally.
Right.
But then, you know, if you do find an agent, if you do actually get a contract, if they, you know, say, oh, yes, this is the most wonderful thing, you know, it's going to take you a couple of years before it's out. And you could be a year and a half waiting, and they decide to shelve it.
Right.
So,
or the political winds change and something is very offensive that was just normal every day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or
Absolutely.
a pandemic hits and there's 1,500 manuscripts sitting on file cabinets all over New York.
Yep. And so I decided to go self-publishing, and you still have to edit, you still have to polish it, you still have to do everything, and you're really taking on everything yourself.
Right.
But the finished product is so fabulous when you have that book in your hand, you know, and marketing is a learning curve, but if you want your books to sell, then you're going to get out and market it.
Right.
I have Darren.
It's always funny to me when I hear, oh, I'm going to go try to get a book, but I haven't written it and they're going to give me an advance. Hold on.
Right. There are so many people out there. I
a sexual advance maybe because they're going to get through you, but no one gets it unless you're like a huge political celebrity.
Right.
You're not getting an advance.
No.
And you're still going to have to market your stuff. Stephen King doesn't have to.
Well, you get
everyone else does.
You get a lot of people also that start asking questions about, I got contacted by this publisher and they say for, $4,000, my book will be published. Is this a good idea? And I'm like, guys, if you have to pay them, no.
Right.
Yeah. They're supposed to be paying you.
That's different, but to carry your book, no.
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 But I've had a great experience with it. And the more books that I have out, things are starting to get noticed. And where, they pick up one book, I'm starting to get the read through of, then they're buying the second and they're buying the third. Right. And that's also nice. So, I have like 3 fans.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. Tomorrow will be 4, there'll be 5 and 6.
You got 2 more than we do, so don't worry about it.
Right. But yeah. Yeah, so it's Barb and our fan club is guested on here tonight. So Steve's the only fan club there. No, we're like we've been in where are we at? Like 295 cities now our show's been in, and
nice.
36 countries. It's bizarre, it's really kind of cool. And the weird stuff that I wouldn't think is anything is what does the most.
Oh, the weird stuff is the best stuff.
I did a 30-second TikTok on the courtesy flush, and it's got 1,000 views.
Yeah, but you know what? I think the nipple. I think the nipple.
Motley Crue got 750 in like 6 hours. I mean, it was crazy.
You were wearing the nipple clamps, though, right?
No, no, that's the private one I sent you. Thanks, Jason. No, I think those were what do you call it? The jump to car.
Oh yeah. Jumper cables, yeah.
Yeah. Put your glasses on.
You call them nipple clamps, but they're jumper cables.
Nice. Okay, so you came back with. I think that writing a book in a month is wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't all happen that way.
I know. I did that accidentally.
The first one, my first one. Yeah, I had the bare bones, the first draft down in the month. I would say it was done in 2. But then the sequel took about 6. The third book took at least a year.
Yeah.
And it all depends on what's going on. I've got kids and a house and a life and insanity and, investigating on the side. So,
How many kids?
I have 3.
Excellent.
Nice.
What's the age spread?
All under 18 or?
No. Oh God, no. Done with that. No, my youngest is 23. I have a 25 and just turned 28.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, it's nice when they can just come over and visit.
Oh no, they live with me. Well, 2 of them live with me.
Oh, gotcha.
Wow.
I got one here and then one lives.
No, my oldest lives with me, and she just got her RN. So she's not going to be with me that much longer.
Right.
Yeah.
And my youngest is 23. He's pretty severely deep on the autism spectrum. So he's with me until we transition him to a residence.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And I used to work with residence homes all the time. And what a great thing.
Yeah.
Once it happens and they get it.
Oh yeah, I think it'll be great when he does it. He'll do really well.
Yeah. Like, and anytime, like I used to work with Misericordia, and that was for, down or you classify it differently now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was having a shitty day and like just getting hammered left and right, I'd stop at Misericordia, and everyone, hey Vince, and I'd get like 300 hugs in a matter of an hour.
Wow.
And everyone's like, hey, everyone's happy to see you. And, you walk around and
makes you feel good.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. So it's places like that are filled with love. So
yes,
families who may seem opposed to it, give it some consideration and definitely go and check them out if you haven't. Some people are very adverse to that and very protective, as they should be, of their children.
Oh, absolutely. I pictured from the time he was 3 that he would just stay with me forever. And realistically, that can't happen. But he always adjusts to everything, every transition better than I do. So, it'll come and it'll be good.
And better as he gets older.
And better as he gets older, yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm sure, how is he with technology? I mean, that's a certain...
Oh, man.
Yeah.
He's not conversational. He's really classified as nonverbal, but put him in front of the computer. He can navigate. He gets to YouTube. He pulls up music videos and everything that he wants to see. It's
He's
amazing.
better than us 50-year-olds, right?
Yes.
Definitely better than you, Jason.
Everybody's better than me.
But okay, so you did the writers challenge. I have a few friends that are doing that right now, and I think it's insane.
It's nuts.
Yeah,
but it got me started. I haven't gone back and done it again because I'm too busy writing. So
right, I just think when they say novel, it kind of freaks some people out. If they said novella, I'm like, okay, that's kind of less.
It's kind of
threatening, but
well, it's like,
man, good for you,
It's like learning to ride a bike. The first you're going to fall down, you're going to scrape your knee. But you just get back on. You have to get that ride down.
Right.
But once you're on the bike, once you ride and you go, oh look, I just went a mile. That's probably the toughest part. You finish that first novel, and it's like I did it, and I can do it. Yeah, that's great. And using the nano. I've seen that out there. I was looking at it a number of years ago. What is it?
Yeah.
Nano? What is it?
NaNoWriMo.
NaNoWriMo. Yeah, that's great.
November National November Writers
Challenge or something.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But, whatever it takes.
Hey, that's all it took, and it got me back into the writing that I was always wanting to do.
Yeah, and tell me when did you get away from it? You mentioned it briefly.
Really starting real life, getting out of college and getting the job that would pay. And I had my kids, and when you've got, 3 little ones, all 2 years apart, there's
no time.
There's not a lot of time to sit down and write.
Nope.
Yeah.
So, they got older. They were initially part of my first paranormal team.
Okay.
My oldest and a couple of her friends.
Really?
But really it's it took my kids kind of growing up and a little bit out for me to get back to everything. And now, they live with me, and it's, all right, go away, mommy's writing.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I had to train a couple of my kids that, when I close the door, I'm going to need some time. I need some quiet.
Right.
It was a challenge with the little ones around. It's a real challenge.
Right.
So Barb, when did you first get interested in the paranormal thing?
I don't remember a time when I wasn't.
Really? Okay.
Absolutely. When I was, as far back as I can remember, every book that I could grab was paranormal, supernatural, unexplained, and it just fascinated me.
Right.
You would sit and read stories of a train that's gonna careen off a cliff, and it's saved at the last second by some figure with a lantern, and then they're gone and no one knows who it was. Everything just pulled me in deeper.
Yeah.
And like Steve, you said that you had to train a couple of kids to, once the door closes, like I literally had to put a sign on the door and on my computer, because people, they just walk up to you, hey, okay, it took me 2.5 hours to get to this space in my head, and now you've completely pulled me out.
Yep.
And so then boom, another 45 minutes, get into it. Oh, hey, like if I'm writing, leave me alone.
It
Well,
was hard.
I am in the book. I am in that room, wherever that room is, that's happening on the page. I'm not at the computer.
Yep.
That's the same if I'm going over evidence that we've gotten on an investigation. If I have my headphones on, you would think that I've got my headphones on, I'm trying to listen to what we've gathered. And that's like prime time for, mom this, mom that. And that took a while to, shut it down.
I had headphones too. I had to pop them on. Sometimes I had them on so long they hurt my head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it's been on 3 hours.
Yeah, my writing, I don't write for, usually it's very rare I write longer than 2 hours. 2 hours and then go on to something. Otherwise I'm just kind of spinning.
Oh, if my house is quiet, I can start writing and I don't look up for hours.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
like you, Barb. I could do that sometimes. Yeah.
It's great when it happens.
Yeah, you guys got
Yeah.
multiple. I got one, so that makes sense. You know, with multiple kids in the house, there's always, always something to
Yeah.
be overheard. And yeah, I usually write to Eagles Greatest Hits Volume 2.
Really?
Yeah, I just put it on and I just let it play, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Cool.
comfortable. It reminds me of a good time as a kid.
So refresh my memory. Like volume 2, what tunes are on that?
Oh,
I mean, is it like
Desperado,
Witchy Woman?
Witchy, yeah, Witchy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
I
the
had-
way your
Take it to the
sparkling earrings
limit.
lay on your skin so brown, Jason.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I'm
I
gonna
had a
lay with you in the
soundtrack. I had
desert
a
tonight.
playlist.
Yeah.
yeah. Timothy B. Schmidt, man.
What kind of did you
yeah.
listen to music, Barb, when you were writing?
Yeah, what
Did
do you
have a
do?
particular
No.
choice? No.
No, I've got it dead quiet in the house.
Okay.
Oh,
Or
dead
Darren's.
quiet. I
Or
got
Darren's.
Dead.
My kids are home.
Whoa.
My kids are home. My daughter's got her boyfriend over. I'm at Darren's house, and whether he's there or not, it's I can sit down and get some.
I'm either dead quiet or the Eagles Greatest Hits Volume 2. But
You're a friggin' weirdo, man.
well, no, sometimes it'll if I put it on, I won't hear the street noise. I have a train station right across the street.
You're like Lebowski, and he's like, I hate the fucking Eagles, man. He's like, get out of my cab.
What do you mean you hate the Eagles?
Right.
Mhm. So what are you gonna do, Lebowski?
Come on.
Uh-huh. But
Do
Yeah,
something,
so-
Lebowski.
what gave you your first idea for your book? You said paranormal. It just kind of
Everything. I mean,
Hold on. Are you drinking Pellegrino, Barb?
I'm drinking whatever Darren has here.
Yes.
Okay. That's
Why?
fantastic. I love Pellegrino.
So do
Yeah.
I.
I'm a huge mineral water fan.
This is the best.
What do you have,
Absolutely.
Jason? Is that a Foster's oil can?
Well, Steve, I wish I could afford those like I used to, but this
yeah,
is like
it's Keystone Light Extra
Oh,
Light.
I thought it was Foster's.
Ice
Yeah.
is special.
this
Foster's
is
was 2 for 1 recently.
Yeah.
I forget where I
Really?
saw it. 2 for 1.
Australian for beef.
well, these
Oh,
are
Publix.
this is $8.99 for a 15 pack. So this is my Biden beer.
Nice. Nice.
Inflation,
So-
baby.
So how did the first book come about, Barb?
Well, it started with that challenge, but the subject really just came out of our investigations. Being out and about with the team, there's a lot that goes into keeping the team together and the rules that we follow when we're on, out in the field.
Right.
And it just flowed that, I would absolutely have a paranormal investigator going in, but alone, because that's something that you just don't do,
Right.
even just for safety reasons. If you've got to have at least another person, you could step in a hole and break your leg and then you're on the ground.
Right.
So I had him go into an abandoned asylum and
Oh, really?
yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
creepy.
Well, it was
That
creepy.
would be yeah. I'm
It
very
was creepy,
attuned
and
to
what
things
came
like
home with
this.
him was even creepier.
Oh, my.
Really?
What was creepier?
Yes, creepier.
Okay, I gotta go
Oh,
get another
graveyard?
beer. I'll be right back.
What was creepier? Did you say graveyard?
What followed him home?
Can you share where this was?
Oh, gotcha. Go ahead, Jay.
Where the asylum was?
Yeah.
It was a fictitious asylum.
Oh,
but
in your
based-
book.
In the book. Oh, yes, in the book.
Gotcha,
okay.
gotcha,
I thought you were
gotcha,
talking
gotcha.
about a real one, a real investigation.
No, what the book was based on. But where
gotcha.
the book took off, was everything that really you could do wrong in the field.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
But it was fictitious asylum based on the team. My original team had gone to Rolling Hills Asylum in New York,
Okay.
and Penhurst in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and those are creepy enough on their own.
Yeah. Oh, I got a good story, but I'm not taking your time. But I'll just briefly tell you. I worked in the psychiatric facility, the largest military psych facility in Portsmouth at the Naval Hospital, and we were in the old building. It was built pre-Civil War, and there were 4 psychiatric wards there when I was there. But the whole 4th floor was all shut off, and everybody said it was haunted. So there was a lock on the elevator. You couldn't over the 4th floor button.
Wow.
I mean, that's going through a lot of hassle to do that.
Yeah.
So obviously there was something to it.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't want us to go up there, but we got up there.
Of course.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, working nights, she did a lot of weird things. On a night
Right.
shift on the psych ward, if it wasn't too busy.
Right.
But they had.
It's not like there's not people there who eat through walls, so there's.
Well, I'll tell you though, the coolest thing when I went up there, we did see footsteps in the dust. It was very dusty, but they had equipment up there from all the way back to the Civil War. They had the neatest thing was this old operating table. Okay. The kind that, they would,
Yeah, like Frankenstein was on.
Oh,
well, yeah, they would put the patient perpendicular and they would operate them as they were up and down, and then you could crank it up. And the old ceiling was open because they wanted the natural light coming in, and then there were less mosquitoes up there on the 4th floor for them to operate. But yeah, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you, the book that I just released is titled True Ghost Stories and Hauntings.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Cool. Yay.
And, it's a collection of personal paranormal experiences from people across the US, some from UK, and they were sent in to me and I've compiled them. And hey, so you might want to send something in for the next volume.
Well, it wasn't anything real exciting. We were just misbehaving. we shouldn't have been up there. We were misbehaving. But there were a lot of stories that circulated around. But unfortunately, I didn't have any. Are you going to share one with us? One of yours in particular?
When we get to that, yeah, absolutely. I could talk ghost experiences all night long.
Well, yeah. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, that's coming up in a little bit, but
yeah.
Before I forget, I gotta play the merch trailer because we gotta keep the lights on the house. But hopefully Jason will be back, and then we'll carry on with writer talk and your process. Hold on.
This is Biff Strange, your friendly neighborhood engineer, and I'm here to announce CreatiVity Talkin's merchandise page. Fancy! Check out the designs we got up online there. We've got beanies, t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Just go to creativity-talkin.myspreadshop.com. Now that's what I call creativity talking.
Okay, let's talk process.
Yes.
So us 3 here are writers. So Steve has already written a multi-book series, and I won't get more into that just because the way he's going to market it. If he wants to say more, that's fine. But so everyone here has written multiple things. Now let's get into your process, and Steve, feel free to, ask away. So process.
What do you want to know? What the process?
Yeah, your process.
My process. I write in a completely quiet house. I get the first draft done and usually set it aside for maybe, not very long because I'm excited to get into the next stage.
Right.
Then I go through and really add to the bare bones. I know 90% of the dialogue when I sit down to get everything written. And I have copious notes. I live on legal pads because I'm always, jotting down pieces here and there. I don't have it plotted out, but I have notes on the characters and conversations that I know they'll have.
Yeah, I go through a notebook a month.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Easily. I've got stacks of legal pads and probably 30 pages of notes on the book I'm writing now. But I go back through my first draft, and that's when I add all the real detail, all all the explanations, all the
Nuance.
yes, the minutia.
Yeah, like
And
what I do, I when I write, I just puke it out.
mhm.
And what I do, I puke it out, I finish the chapter, go back, rewrite.
Oh, you go by the chapter?
Yeah, because I'm dyslexic and I've learned now that this is the best way for me to do it. Otherwise, I get really overwhelmed.
Okay, because
I tried doing it like
I get the whole
by a
plot
book,
down.
by the whole book. Then I did it by act
Mhm.
and by chapter, way less anxiety.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. So,
But I get the whole thing down so it's set. And then I go back and I start adding all the detail, the everything. And once that's set, then it's, I've got a number of people who beta read for me.
mhm.
And I get a lot of, all of their comments back. And then, then it's just tons and tons of editing.
Yeah, I had a very rough time with beta readers.
Did you?
Yeah. So basically, I send my stuff to Steve. So he's not a beta reader. It's more getting feedback
Right.
as an author to author than beta readers, because I sent it to 8 beta readers the first act. I'm like, this is really important. If you can't do it, don't do it. If you can't make the date, don't. Not one person even mentioned it. And it's
Wow.
3 years later.
Well, with my
so like
first,
beta readers are really hard for me.
I just have a couple that I really trust.
Yeah.
The first book I sent to my oldest sister.
Right.
And I knew I had something, and I knew that she would be brutally honest.
Yeah.
And
I come from my
terrified.
background is from Hollywood, film, television. You do whatever's best for the story. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So I knew when I sent it to Steve to critique, he's going to tell me, and it's not hurting my feelings. What makes the story better?
Exactly. And my sister is, like I said, she's brutally honest, and she would tell me if it was garbage. And I really was terrified to send it to her because, I had spent the time on it. It was so personal.
Right. Well, because us as writers, we know what we're talking about.
Oh my God.
The reader may not have any idea, but we
not
know.
at all.
Especially in the first draft.
I sent it to her, and she called me and she said, "You have to publish this." And then I was, even more scared because it's like, wow, she liked it. And I went, okay. So, and then I knew I just had to go on from there. So then it was editing and getting it set.
Yeah. So now moving forward, so the book I'm writing now and moving forward, when I'm done with the chapter, I'm done. So then it's just assemble and then do a read over, send it to critique. And then when it comes back, then I do one after that, and then it's done. The other way, I killed myself. Just, because you can edit forever and forever and forever.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
You can get lost.
You can get into, it's like a loop, computer loop. Yeah.
No.
You can't let that happen.
It's almost like, needing a producer when you're making a record, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You need somebody else to go, look,
right.
You're overthinking this shit. Just leave it.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because I'm probably like you in a bunch of writer groups on social media.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised at the number of writers who don't believe in what they're writing.
It's incredible.
What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah.
If you think the story is good enough to write a book, then you should believe in it wholeheartedly. You shouldn't doubt it.
Right.
Write the book for yourself, not for other people. And
a lot of people are doing it.
Like it.
Yeah. You know what?
Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was going to say, I think if I recall, when I read Stephen King's book on writing, which is excellent, any author should do that. I think that's one of the things that he coached. He said, write for yourself and enjoy it. Do not forget writing for the. I think he may have had that in there, but that's good advice.
It is. But I see a lot of comments in the writers groups, and people will say, what genre should I write in? Which one makes the most money, or where, I've got this idea, can somebody write it with me? Well, no.
They're screwing up right off the get-go. You just do what you love.
Oh, my favorite posts are, hey, looking for a plot and main characters for a fiction book I want to write.
Yes. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Oh, you want a
that.
ghostwriter? Okay,
Yeah.
35 cents a word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, I
Minimum
have to pay for that?
80,000 words.
You know, and again, you can see the similarity between music and literature is that
Yeah.
you do what you love. If somebody else digs it, cool, but you don't write for them, you write for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
Yes,
I was
or
writing
the people
Reboot
that
Jesus.
put the people that put something out and then they're crushed when someone doesn't like it. And it's like,
Right.
how many
Who cares?
millions of people are out there? Not
Yeah.
people are going to read your work. People are going to not like it.
Yeah,
I
who
have
cares?
a friend who read the first book and he tore it apart. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. And he's like, you can do better than this. And he's like, but truly it wasn't my genre. I stick to usually historical fiction or no, historical fiction. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is nowhere near that.
Right.
So, but I wasn't upset by all the negative things he had to say about it because I
Yeah.
knew him and I knew he was so far removed from the subject. He only read it because he knew me.
Right.
And
But he's not your he's not your target. He's not
Yeah,
a
that's
target
great
market.
too about
Target market.
self-publishing.
exactly. So and
Yeah.
it didn't hurt my feelings. I just
Right.
didn't send him the next
Good.
one.
Right.
Right. Yeah, but it's not
Right.
your
It's fine.
genre. It's not your genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Right.
it's not your genre. You don't understand the tropes. You don't understand. So
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much you
And
do
if
your
you're a writer,
thing and you put it out.
you're
If they like it,
if you're a fledgling writer, your friends and family will not buy your book. Don't expect them to.
right.
Yeah.
Crazy. There's a lot of content in the world. Don't take it personal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
But they do.
it's good
They
advice.
do.
It's important to
Right.
know.
And like when I was writing Reboot Jesus, I started doing a writing exercise. So I didn't want to waste the first thoughts, the first 8 pages. A lot of people start and they throw out the first 8 pages. Well, I'm not going to throw out 8 pages.
No.
And so anyway, so I started doing this writing exercise, and basically it turned out every time I wanted to do a writing exercise, Vito Bupkis came in, he sat down at the computer and Vito wrote a chapter. And it turns out Vito Bupkis wrote a book in 3 weeks
Wow.
while doing it as a writing exercise to write Reboot Jesus one after Vito left and I sat down in the chair. So that I thought that was very funny. And Vito also beat me by 2 days by publishing his book, the bastard. But so pantser or planner, how did your books come about? And for people who don't know, pantser means you're flying by the seat of your pants, and a planner is someone who outlines.
I'm somewhere in between. I'm closer to planning it out. Like I said, I've got just tons and tons of notes, pages and pages of notes. They're not in an outline form though.
Yeah.
I've got, this dialogue, jot it down. Wait, I know this is going to happen with this character, jot it down.
Right.
And, when I get to the point that I want to organize all the notes and I'm trying to see, okay, this is going to happen before that. And that's when I realize I have to sit down now and write it.
Right.
I just got to that point with book 5 of the series. I've got, just notes across my desk and I'm trying to write it and get it. Okay, this goes here and here. And it's like, no, I can't organize it anymore. I'll have to write it.
Yeah. I'll write, I'll have I'll have my Bible. So I'll have all the characters that are in it. I'll have kind of the locations, vehicles, that kind of stuff. And then with this one in Prophets of Chevelle, specifically, I have one character that his whole character is already written before I started writing page 1. I have all his dialogue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's just one character. That never happened before. Just like, bleh.
That's
and
cool.
he's not a main character. He's just kind of the spice that comes in every once in a while.
Oh, yeah. I always
That's
know
cool.
so much of the dialogue ahead of time because I can hear it. I can hear them speak it.
Right.
I always know the ending and the epilogue before I start. Because
Well,
I
you know what?
At least you know where you're going. You don't know how you're going to get there, but you know where you're going.
There are many times, as my characters became well developed, it started with the one novel, turned into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. to 10. I didn't finish 8, 9, 10, but I stopped at 7. But I kept having to go back to 1 because in novels 5 and 6, the characters were doing things. It was like, oh, that's where it came from. So I'd have to, thread back and forth. But it really, I tell people this all the time. It's really interesting. When your characters are well developed, sometimes you just throw them in a circumstance and they almost talk on their own. It's really bizarre. I mean, in my head, they're having conversations like, where did that come from? It's weird.
Yeah, once Vito Bupkis was dropped in the Reboot Jesus, it went on.
Yeah.
And I just let it go.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
It's not my story. I'm just telling it.
Well, I think the third book, I was trying to plan it. And I got to a point once I started that one of the characters went in a completely different direction. And it was so much fun. But he was just like, oh, this is where we're going. I'm like,
exactly.
All right.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I started out like, I would have, this would be like, the first 3 pages outline. And then once Vito Bupkis taught me a lesson, I knew that I could get 8 to 10 pages on one thought.
Mm-hmm.
And the 26 I'm writing down have no bearing on what's going on.
Right.
That's my own, for me to know and for the reader to not.
Yep.
Mostly. And then if I would outline a chapter, is only 3 points. This needs to happen, and I can get 20 pages out of it.
Do either of you ever use flowcharts?
Only
not for writing.
Not for writing.
Yeah. Okay.
I
did that a few
have
times.
A couple of things drawn out. Like there's.
Sure.
Oh, that's cool.
Look at you.
See, I do that with
Yeah. Well, similar to that, I've done that.
Liar.
Yeah. but not for writing.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Writing,
no, I've done it for writing.
And structure. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I've done it for writing.
Now I've got.
How did that work?
Maps drawn out.
What's that?
I've got maps drawn out. I've got a particular cemetery figured out, and I also had to do it for a family tree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because after book 1, 2, 3, there were characters that came together that never would have if they didn't meet up in the first book.
Right.
And I kind of had to outline the whole timeline to just keep everybody and make sure it fell into place the way I needed it to.
Right.
But like that and where my towns are in relation to each other.
Yeah, I have a nationwide map for the Rebootiverse where all my stories, like the first 20 books are already, I know what story I want to tell in those 20 books. Mm-hmm. So I know the towns, the locations. So you could be, and you don't have to read in any order. You could be reading something like in a Marvel comic, say, but you're reading one of my books. And if you read whatever that book, this one sentence, if you didn't read the books, it's not going to make not going to make a difference in your paragraph.
Right.
But if you read that book, there's a little wink to you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So everything's kind of intertwined, but you don't have to read them in any order. If that makes
exactly sense. Same with mine. They don't have to be read in order, but if you do, there's subtleties that you're going to pick up on.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Steve, so how did it work for you with your flow charts for writing?
Well, you were asking about pantser or planner. Me, it was back and forth. So I do a flow chart typically for events like this would occur that would lead to this, or it could lead to that. And to see where the decision trees would happen, because a lot of events can go in many different directions. So it helped me flesh things out. It was like a mind map. But once I drew it up, I may have looked at it once or twice more, and then it was done. Yeah. So it was sort of an organization point for my brain to have like different threads of things that were going to happen and how they might flesh out. It was just a touchstone to take something intangible, look at it in a tangible way, and then I just mostly put it aside and it was done. It seemed to work.
Oh, for sure. Like, so Barb, you have a Bible when you start out? When you say you got 30 pages of notes, is it semi-organized, loosely?
It's loosely organized. Right. I know who is going to die. I know, the ending. I know who I'm killing off every single time.
Yeah.
And it's all dialogue and a snippet of a scene here and there because it's in my head, it's just got to be that way.
Right.
And then when it's too much to keep it together, I start writing it.
Yeah, I once killed off one of my characters and I cried. Then I'm like,
I've heard
"See,
people
but when
say
you
that.
read this part, he goes,
Yeah.
no, I didn't even pick that up." I'm like, "God damn it."
Yeah. I did the same thing. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Like,
I
okay, I
kill
gotta
off- I
go
kill
back
off
and rework that a little bit because I knew. I mean, that's what that's one of the things. If you can have another writer read your stuff, because as a writer and other people it may not be obvious to.
I kill off a
Well,
character.
that
and I
the
want
way
to
that I
high-five
say
someone.
"and" right there should have explained it all. You know what I mean?
What did you say, Barb, about your character? You
I
killed
said
off?
when I kill off a character, I want to high five someone. I'm thrilled. It's like, all right, I know you're gonna die, and I got you in the best possible way.
Yeah, and she's smiling and she tells me, "Hey, you wouldn't believe I just killed this one off." She's like so excited. It's like, what a twisted woman you are here.
Well, think about it this way. For a paranormal investigator, that's job security.
Yeah.
Right. So
Well,
look,
my characters come back.
Exactly.
Yeah. So before we get into the paranormal stuff, let's go. Okay. So you have your process.
Yes.
You have your ideas, the way you get your book. So you come up with an idea to merge them both.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a new book, a new way, a new process because it's different. Because it's direct feedback from other people.
Yes. This.
So how did you go about that?
I thought this would practically write itself, and I was very wrong. It took so much more to get everything organized the way that it made sense. And the beginning of each chapter is I dive into my own personal experiences with that type of paranormal activity, and then have the experiences of other people to fill it out.
Yeah.
And so each chapter, the first chapter was apparitions, and I titled it, "Did you see that?" And then the next chapter was like, "Did you hear that? Did you feel that?" Then I have one that was, "What was that?" And also we went into dreams, premonitions, and things that get much darker than everything else. But this process wasn't entirely different. I figured I'd write my bits and then, okay, here I've got, these are apparitions, this is this, and so on. And it was so nuanced going through everything that was sent in. And then trying to classify things. I reclassified and reformatted the book probably.
And you got a great response.
Times. Yes. I would have to say that the people that responded on Facebook, because I put it up on the team's page, about 15,000 responded. And that was in posting their own experiences right on the Facebook post.
Well, let's be sure that we get this podcast shared on that page and everyone can give us a like, subscribe.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. We will be doing that.
And, we'd love to have people come on and tell us ghost stories as well.
So,
but,
Barb,
I tried doing a book that way, the way that you did it. And, okay, so the book was entitled Women Love Assholes. And it was about dating, online dating in your 40s. Because, women like the bad boys and everything else. I did this thing across 100 cities where I went out and I was a total dick. I'd be at a bar and I'd be a total dick. Hey, what's going on? Da, da, da. What are you drinking? Oh, vodka tonic. Yeah, if you swallow, the next one's on me. Next thing you know, walking out the door, and I would say, well, my name's not Troy. I'm Vince. I'm doing this thing. I only got slapped twice out of 100 times in 4 cities. I did this because I was amazed because I'm a nice dude. And I was amazed my guy friends were total dogs.
I don't know about nice. I think nice is a strong word.
Falling all over them, and I was like, "What's going on?" So I did this thing because women love assholes, and as soon as I was an asshole, it was amazing. So I started asking for people to send in stories.
You ain't that nice, motherfucker.
Oh, shut up, Baldy. But no, but I'd ask people to bring in stories, hey, da-da-da. And they're like, oh, I got a great one. Okay, come on over for the interview. And it's like, oh yeah, 2 sentences, haha. I'm like, 2 sentences. Like, you said you had to wait 3 weeks to meet me in person to tell me 2 sentences.
Right.
Like, I was like, after like 12 of those, I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Trash heap. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Well,
so I'm glad that you got such a great response because
I
that's
got
what
such a
I'm-
variety.
Yeah.
Some of them were maybe 3 sentences long, but they were unique.
Right.
And other people sent pages, and there were people that said, you know what, I've got some great stuff.
Right.
Call me.
Like,
And
Jason, he got a bunch of responses for his, but he can't read goat language.
Hey,
And that was his dating book. By Jason Clark.
don't knock it till you tried it. So Barb, I'm gonna shift us away from the literary geekery.
Yes.
And I want to know your first paranormal experience. There
we go.
We're almost there, Jason.
Yeah.
Almost there, Jason. Hold on. One more thing, and then you have to do a Jason's picks. Are you ready, or do you space it?
Oh, you ready for Jason's picks?
Almost. After Vito's trailer, we'll.
All right then.
The Book of Vito Bupkis.
Hey everybody, it's your pal Vito. In this book, I talk about subjects people seem to get their panties in a wad over. I mean, who would have thunk? Gay fucking marriage, common fucking sense, garage fucking sales. But hey, what do I know? Guaranteed to offend, and it's available now at vincentcustos.com. And, you can get it there.
The Book of Vito Bupkis.
So order yours today, or else.
Or
Thank you.
else.
Or else. Yeah. So,
I
Jason,
love
are you ready to do Jason's picks or what?
I'm ready, man.
All right.
Jason's picks.
Oh, nice! I got a theme song now.
Yeah, I just made it up. Pulled it right
I
out.
love it, man. You're brilliant.
Amazing.
So go ahead. What's your picks for the week?
Yeah, this week is the new Dead Daisies record, man. It's called Radiance.
Okay.
Fantastic record. They've got the great Doug Aldridge on guitar.
Nice. And I like how you kept it along with the theme, Dead Daisies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Glenn. Okay, I just got it. Glenn
Doug
Hughes.
Aldridge.
Doug Aldridge, Glenn Hughes playing bass, singing.
He's back.
Yeah, dude, that guy in his 60s, mid 60s now.
Yeah, he
great
nailed it,
singer,
yeah.
still killing it, man. Vocals are still strong.
Yeah.
Great record, real solid and cohesive all the way through. Couple of tunes through, the tune Radiance, fantastic. Kiss the Sun, Not Human, Roll On. Just a good solid record, man. So check it out.
Yeah. And you got any do you have any book suggestions for anyone today?
Not really this week. I've been doing a lot of self-help books this week. I started one called You Are the Mountain.
Nice.
But I'm only like a couple chapters in, so I can't really, I mean,
What
so
was that?
far
You are
so
the
good.
mountain goat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A good book so far. I'm like 2 chapters in. I mean, if you're trying to get your shit together, then check it out. Yeah. Just touches on depression type things and where we go when we're going low.
Right.
How to get back on track. So if anybody needs that kind of thing, I would recommend it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
alrighty. And as everyone knows, if you're down in the dumps, you're depressed, you don't think anyone wants to listen to you, please reach out. Call Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. Suicide Prevention on lifeline.org, or you can text 988 and the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Someone will get back to you. And with war looming, 24 soldiers take their lives every day. And this scare is not going to be any less. It'll probably increase. So, reach out, talk to somebody. And, even if it's your friend, your priest, your buddy, your teacher, and maybe you don't involve with anyone, there's someone always to talk to you. And they won't, of course, will not let the information out. So reach out, pick up the phone. We know it's a heavy lift. So, all right.
And if you need to call Vince directly and tell him that his curtains.
Yeah, you can call me,
open.
630-849-7157. I'll be glad to talk to you.
Yeah, tell him his shades are open and you see everything he's doing, and you wish he would close the curtains.
Right. Well, hey, I'm not dancing anymore. Well, yes, I am, but
Yeah.
I took the pole down. It kind of bowed. No, just kidding. But so I have so I'm watching last week's episode where Jason was hammered, and we didn't get to talk to Bruce Willis till about 48 minutes into the present.
Well, this week's
I'm looking in
episode
the background, and right here on the floor, right, is Seth's dirty socks.
Really?
Yeah, and it bothers. So like for an hour and a half, I'm looking at like dirty, nasty.
How did we miss that? Because I guess because I was so hammered.
Yeah,
but this week's not so different. So
right. Yeah, it's funny when I was a special effects guy, I had pitched 2 television shows. One where special effects guys go out and they kind of prove myths if they're true or not. They said no one's ever going to buy that.
Hey. By the way, saying that,
and I also pitched a team of special effects guys going out and doing paranormal hunts because we know shit that other people will not recognize.
Right.
And my dad was also a illusionist and a close-up card magician. So, I thought that was an interesting. I would love to go on hunts because I will look for other things that no one would even think about because they don't know they exist.
Let me run this by you. I had a convenience store worker tell me that I look like the guy from Mythbusters this week.
Yeah,
he kind of
Right.
like Jamie.
Jamie, yeah.
So I'm not familiar with Mythbusters, so I was a little like confuzzled. when you
there's
said
there's a resemblance there.
Yeah, he married a goat.
Okay.
So
All right.
you got that
Okay.
going for you.
Can't be all that bad.
But yeah, no, it's a good show. But
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. I was like, I just looked at him like,
right.
okay.
All right, now let's get into the haunty good stuff, paranormal spookiness.
All right.
Yes.
So, Jason,
Where do you want to start?
Go ahead and ask your question, Jay.
Yeah, just your first experience, what like kind of set you on the path,
I was always on the path. I
Mhm.
was always reading, watching, whatever movies I could find, whatever books I could find. I grew up on anything spooky and, Bela Lugosi and, vampires, werewolves, ghosts, anything like that.
Right.
The first experience that really hit me was in a dream. My grandmother passed away in 87. And shortly after, I had a dream, and it was absolutely more than a dream.
Mhm.
And I was
Mhm.
going up an escalator in a mall. And when I got to the top, my grandmother was sitting on a bench wearing the most brilliantly colored dress. It was stunning.
Yeah.
And I commented on it. And she said to me, "Oh, these are just some flowers that blew across my grave."
Oh, wow.
And that set the stage for a lot of dream visitation with her. And she was always in my dreams. And it wasn't, I was dreaming of my grandmother. It was, she would sit down and have long conversations with me. And we
Yeah.
got to the point where I knew it was her, but there was some part of me that still doubted it was really her.
Yeah.
And what she ended up doing was we had a dream again with her present, and my mother was there, and it was a dream like, but more than a dream.
Yeah.
And I had a calendar in front of me. And she pointed at the calendar and was telling me that my mother's dog was going to die. And so I was, trying to flip back the pages, and it was like, no, you can't change this.
Yeah.
And I saw that the month it began with an A. So I woke up and I'm like, all right, now I'm going to sit back and see, does this really happen? And April came and went, and I'm like, wow, all right. Cause I write down the strange things that happen.
Yeah.
And August came and my mother's dog died. And I think that was my grandmother kind of showing me, okay, look, I'm really here. This is us. The conversations we're having are real.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind, having her interact and prove things.
Yeah.
Really kind of set the real stage. It took it from an interest to something more active. And then she also would affect electrical appliances in my house.
Yeah.
And, I'd be watching TV and holding the baby, and my TV would go off.
Yep.
It would go back on again, and it would go off. And it happened often enough and oddly enough that I finally one day sat back when it did it and said, okay, if that's you, do it again. And it went on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. And I'm like, okay, stop.
Wow.
I know you're there.
Yeah.
But that was one type of experience. I mean, I have seen apparitions. I have seen shadow people. I have seen...
I got a bunch myself. Yeah.
I usually see family members within 2 weeks of their death.
My sister always dreamed.
My cousin Al, who just passed away, he's the only one I haven't seen. And he just passed away like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But usually I see something. And then after my dad died, because I had all his stuff in my place, and so I'd hear something. We got the flying orb. That would happen, the orange orb that would fly around and stuff. So things would be settling in a closet or whatever. They don't settle that often, what I mean?
No.
And so it's like, hey, Dad, is that you? You good? Okay, thanks for stopping by.
Oh, yeah.
And then it'd be gone. But it was just fine. My kids always grew up with, we had a ghost in the house when the boys were small, and they even wouldn't go in that room.
Yeah.
So they're in bunk beds in one room, and there's one bedroom not being used because Blue Boy's in there. And people saw Blue Boy, thought it was my youngest son, but it wasn't. My brother comes downstairs. He's like, "How was Seth in the backyard?" He was just upstairs. I'm like, "Well, that wasn't Seth. That was Blue Boy." Because he checked underneath the bed. He ran underneath the bed, and he was messing with them, and he went and wasn't there.
Yeah.
But ever since I was a little kid, when I was 4 years old, I had two best friends, and they both died within 4 months. One got hit by a car, one died of a brain aneurysm on Christmas morning.
Oh.
Wow.
And Danny, who died of the brain aneurysm, every night would come in and sit down at the edge of my bed, and we'd have full-on conversations. I didn't know anything different.
Right.
4, And then it wasn't until I was 5, I tell my mom what's been going on. She's like, "What? Ah!" And then, of course, that stopped. But I didn't think anything differently of it.
Right.
Exactly.
And there's studies saying that you actually go to a different part of a multiverse once you pass away. The study just came out this week. I thought I had it pulled up, but I don't. But it's very interesting. I mean, energy's a constant.
It's fascinating. And we also had a little boy spirit in our house. One night, my daughter, for the longest time, she would, I'd put her to bed. She'd get up at least once in the night. I'd take her back to her bed. And I was in bed and I heard her coming. I was nursing my youngest son.
Yeah.
I heard her coming. So I put the baby aside, and all of a sudden, before she got into my bedroom, she screamed like somebody was ripping off her arms.
Right.
Absolutely screamed. And I go running out, what's the matter? And she said, there was a little boy in your doorway, and that was okay until he pointed at me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was around for quite a few years. You'd get that sense that somebody just came into the room. You'd get, for a while, if it was night, my youngest son, as he grew, he'd toddle out in the middle of the night, and as he walked by me, I would see a little boy shadow behind him. But over time, my son grew, and when I would catch sight of this little boy, he stayed the same.
Mm-hmm.
And and that was kind of like, sad, realizing that this little guy is a little guy.
Yeah, he's stuck.
But we had him for quite a few years.
Yeah, and I had asked my next door neighbor about Blue Boy. I'm like, hey, Rich. He's like, oh yeah. He goes, those Play School record players? I'm like, yeah, the boys have one. The one with the red record, blue record, yellow record, green record.
Yeah.
Goes, oh yeah, that thing would start playing by itself in the middle of the fucking night. I'm like, what?
Wow.
So yeah, I'm like, really? So I went home after we had the discussion. I threw that fucking thing out right
Oh
away.
yeah. Oh, I took batteries out of toys.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, I'm not because when I was growing up, okay, my mom could play one song on the piano after 4 years of piano lessons, and it was Fair Elise. Right? So growing up in the middle of the night, the music box would turn on by itself.
Yeah.
So I already had that, you know what I mean? Get that away. And then when we moved into these condos, and they used to be farmland, and so my oldest boy and my ex-wife thought it was really cool that there was a farm girl in the all white gown, like a nightgown all the way down to the floor. You'd look down the hall and then walk past. I'm like, okay. After about 3 weeks of that, I'm like, okay, you're dead. We mean you no harm. It's okay for you to leave, and give her a positive affirmation to leave. And then they got mad at me. I'm like, okay, I've been dealing with this since I've been 4 years old.
Yeah.
And when you see things every day, it can get a little tiring. And if you can send someone on their way, wherever that is, I'm all for it. Because they're not always nice.
They're not always nice.
Trying to get that tar out of your life is sometimes challenging.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Because they tried to get me to be a medium. I'm like, absolutely not. No.
My niece is extremely sensitive, and she at this point is, she has her own kids and a job and everything, and she's blocked out a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
Recently had an experience not too far from my house, and she and her son had gone up, there's some stone steps in an overgrown bank next to the side of the road, and past that is an old stone foundation, and they were exploring, and then got a really bad sensation and got out, and there was a spirit and something else that was quite nasty that was there, and the spirit followed her, and I think it was because it knew she could hear her,
right.
And one night she started texting me and saying, okay, it's been 3 nights and I can't sleep. And this is why I don't talk to dead people. And she's like, we have to get this settled now. So between the two of us, because he ended up popping back and forth between our homes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can feel when a spirit is around. She can hear what I don't. Yeah. And I sat on my bed and trying to work this out and figure out who he was and why he needed, what he was looking for. And, my daughter came into the bedroom and she looked at me. She's like, why don't you get out your equipment? Right. Why are you sitting here trying to do it like this? So I spread out a few things. I spread out a voice recorder and the Ovilus, and the Ovilus started shooting out words, and we got a lot of things that pertain directly to him.
Is this the recordings that you sent me?
No, those weren't. I didn't get his voice on the recording. I just have, what the Ovilus said. So I have just a list in that I can get.
And what is that? So people who don't know.
The Ovilus is a piece of equipment that takes a number of different environmental readings. It does a lot like a millimeter would, a EMF meter. And it takes the readings in and then pulls words out of like a 2,000 word dictionary. And with this guy, it confirmed, my niece felt that his name was John. She heard him say John. We got that on the Ovilus. His family had been murdered. His son, his wife, he was also murdered about 150 years ago. And it gave funeral, discernment and violence. And it came up with things that were unusually accurate for what he was telling her. So we've since, I'm trying to track down information on the piece of land with our assessor's office and doing some background research to see how far back I can, pull owners.
You do a lot of that.
Yeah, we do. And it's, I think that we can track down this guy because really what he wanted was to be heard.
Yeah.
And he had been so angry and so frustrated for so long. That's what drew in this other negative thing that was also on that property. But now that he's quieted down a lot and kind of backed off and left her alone. And I think it's just because he was finally heard. He's finally
people used to have me come over and vibe their, if they wanted to buy a place or whatever, or rent, hey, Vince, can you come over and vibe this place?
Right.
So I'd go over, check it out. I never asked. I'm like, don't pay me money. You can feed me, but don't give me any money. You know what I mean? So, and 9 out of 10 times I was right. I'd be like, dude, no. I'm like,
Well, you can say
I'd be interested. So there's, okay, so I lived in this place not too far from here, about 1.5 miles away, maybe a mile. And it was a 2-flat. And so when you went down the front way, there was this like 3 steps worth. When you cross through at night, you could smell smoke, like it was burning. Not cigarette smoke, not cigar smoke. But randomly, you'd go do this. People would come over. I'm like, hey, walk down the stairs and give me your, and come back up. And they're like, dude, is something on fire? I'm like, no, but thanks for being the 5th person, in 2 months to say that, yes, I'm not crazy. So then we're having a garage sale one day. And this old timer from the neighborhood comes around. He's like, oh, and, I've got my 2 boys. I've got the girl from the girl I'm dating. So 3 kids, small kids. And the guy walks up. They're all there. And the guy walks up and says, oh, hey, this house caught on fire like in 1934 because a guy killed his kids and his wife, killed his whole family in there and set it up. Like, dude, in front of the kids.
Right.
I'm like, hey, can you give me your address? So when you go to bed at 6 o'clock this afternoon, I'm going to climb in bed with you so you can't fucking sleep. You know what I mean? For the next 3 weeks, the kids are like, Dad, the fire.
Yeah.
Oh my! Wow.
That's incredible, though.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
And then in Fort Lauderdale, when I moved there, we had a ghost. We nicknamed him Ecto. But ectoplasm.
I remember that.
My stage name was Vector, so you just drop the V and it's in the R. Ecto was
What are
right
you
there.
talking about that?
Yeah. So we had, pans flying off the thing, my keys went missing for 1.5 weeks when there was nothing in the apartment.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, like we had to wait for the movers.
Mm-hmm.
And the keys disappeared and then they reappeared, 1.5 weeks later. All this weird stuff. The doors would open and close. And then we're sitting there, jamming Tom Petty in the living room, acoustic guitar. We've got no stereo. Waiting for the movers. And there's this 6'3" gray shadowy thing. So we called it Ecto. So all this stuff. So then we find out that the person who lived in this apartment used to be the maintenance guy for the apartments. And these are all like duplexes, 1-level duplexes. And it was kind of like in a Haitian Cuban refugee neighborhood. Okay. So he was on his bike and someone killed him with a shotgun.
Wow.
And that was like a half block from where we lived.
Mm-hmm.
But he lived in that apartment. So that was the guy haunting it.
Huh.
And I have to say, my roommate brought in the Necronomicon book.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like Ouija boards. Get them
Nope.
No, we
No.
out of here. I don't want
Yep.
anything to do with it,
Nope.
and I don't want anything to do with the Book of the Dead.
Nope.
Dude, get that out of here. I don't want it here. So everyone who did that wound up either going, one went to jail, one wound up in the hospital, broke both of his legs, had to drop out of school. One guy had to go home. Like everyone who was within 2 weeks, their lives were forever changed in some negative aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't, want
There's just
anything
some things you don't mess with.
Yeah. My brother's got had stories of a column of fire coming up from a Ouija board in the Philippines when they were doing it later than they should, like at 2 a.m, and they didn't have all the candles lit that you're supposed to have. And I don't.
Yeah. There's just so much that can go wrong.
Now, I would be interested in the frequency response of what frequency you're picking up these communications, because if you can nail down the frequency, maybe you can go directly rather than tripping across it.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's frequency.
Yeah.
Brian, Jason, your mic's not working.
How about now?
There you go.
He must have been cutting one.
Yeah. I didn't want to share that with you guys. So I got my own story. You guys want to hear that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and Darren would know this. Darren, my grandmother's place in Cooks Falls, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So back in the probably mid 90s, I was going through my first divorce, because everybody's got multiples, right?
Yeah.
Hey, dude, you can come on and show everyone your sexy sleepy pants. It's okay, dude.
You'll see me from the waist up.
Yeah. No, I'm not wearing pants right now.
You're not
Yeah,
supposed to
Jason's
show
free
that.
balling it. No one else would know, but
I take commando to the next level. But anyway, so I was staying. I had to crash with my mom for a while, and in my grandmother's old house. And Darren, you remember that house on the hill?
Yes.
So I was when I was previously married, I was living in Cooks Falls by the firehouse. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother passed, and I would drive by the house and look up on. You remember the barn, all
Yeah.
that up there?
Yeah.
And the lights would be on, and we'd be like, what the hell? So we go up there, we turn lights off. Next night, lights would be on, that kind of thing. It was getting weird. So my aunt at that point lived in New Jersey, 2 hours away. And we would go up there in the old days, remember the answering machines?
Mm-hmm.
The lights would be flashing, and there'd be like, my aunt would be on there saying, hello, she received a call from that house.
Wow.
But nobody was there. And her voice in New Jersey would be recorded on the answering machine in New York.
Wow.
So as time went on, my mom moved in there, because our house, my father, divorced, the whole thing. She moved down there, and then when I got divorced, I moved in. And I was working in Rockland County and, commuting back and forth. And weird shit started happening. Like I would come home, it'd be like 2, 3 in the morning. And there was an L-shaped porch. We always used the kitchen entrance, but the living room entrance was always locked. And when I got home, it would be like, 2, 3 in the morning, and it'd be like winter time. And of course, you guys know how quiet it is in winter up there in that part of the world. And I'd be putting my key in the door, and I remember it was getting close to Christmas, and I heard this tapping, And so I followed my ears, and I walked over to the other door that we never used. And my mother had these Christmas ornaments, like stained glass ornaments on suction cup hook things on the glass, There was 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom. So I walk over and I look, and there's 6 ornaments, but the one in the center is just moving by itself, knocking on the glass. And I was a huge, huge skeptic this time. I didn't believe in any of it. I was like, bullshit, there's got to be an explanation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like right in front of my face, and I'm like, that's kind of fucking weird. So I go in the house. I figure maybe it's the furnace. The air from the vents is blowing, and it's making that ornament knock on the glass. I go in there. There's no vent anywhere near the thing. Well, for the next probably 6 to 8 months, it just increased. There was, I'd be sitting in the living room watching TV. The TV would just shut off. I'd hit the remote. It would turn on. So nothing wrong with the TV. And then there would be this huge bang, like a major piece of furniture fell over or something upstairs. I would go up there, nothing would be out of place. I'd get to the middle of the stairs, and I would smell, when you go to a funeral, like the overpowering smell of flowers.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
You would smell it in the center of the stairs, but if you got to the top or the bottom, you would not smell it.
Flowers is a common scent.
Common. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So there was that. I'd go upstairs, nothing would be out of place, but it would like shake the house. It was huge, Dead of winter, 12 inches, 15 inches of snow on the ground. I would hear something hit the window, and I'd go out there and look, and there would be like untouched snow, but there would just be this circle, almost like a vortex shape in the glass in the snow.
Oh wow!
With no explanation.
Well, it'd be fun. It would be even funnier if there was a note.
Yeah, like, hey,
Right.
hey, stop by. You weren't here.
Yeah.
Right. What the fuck,
Yeah.
dude?
Yeah. My room upstairs, heat rises in the wintertime. My room would be ice cold, and I would see shadows, things like that. I would just get like weird vibes, like somebody's watching me.
Yeah.
Sometimes, the sun would be coming in through the side door, and I would see shadows pass across, things like that. And probably things I'm forgetting, but it was like me being a total skeptic. It was just like probably like 6 to 8 months of constant things. And my mom, who is like, you can take it to the bank with her.
Yeah.
She's rational beyond all get out. Like she does dishes, the dishes get put away. But she would like do dishes, put everything away, go up to like get things to take a shower, and come back, and there'd be like a teacup on the counter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that went on for a while, and then it just stopped, and we never really could explain it, but
Yeah, I've had a bunch of weird shit happen to me.
yeah, there was no doubt about it,
Well, I've got periodic activity in my house, and I think that however the house sits, for some reason, the energy just flows through it, and just things come through. One night, the kids were off doing their own thing. It was after dinner. There was, everything was still in the kitchen, and I had to go in to clean up everything. I just had like on the counter was a bowl of vegetables with the serving spoon in it, things like that.
Yeah.
And, the kids were off. And so I got up and I walked into the kitchen around the corner to start just, doing dishes and everything.
Yeah.
And in the bowl where the serving spoon was just sitting, this spoon was now wrapped entirely around the rim of the bowl. I had to slide it off to get it off.
Right.
My kids hadn't done that. They ate dinner, they walked away. There was no one else in the house.
Right.
And yet this metal spoon, and being a paranormal investigator, everybody looks at me and like, why didn't you get your recorders out? Why didn't you start taking pictures? And what I did is I stared at it, and then I was like, all right, bend it back and cleaned up my kitchen.
Sorry, I was too busy shitting myself at the moment.
Yeah.
There are things like, a lot of that stuff takes you back, and you're not, you're like, wait a minute.
Oh yeah. And when it's in your own house,
Yeah.
it feels way different than when you're out in the field.
Right.
And we have toys stored up in the attic in the nice plastic bins with the snap-on lids.
Yeah.
And it's just, old stuff the kids didn't want to get rid of at the time, but we needed to move.
Yeah.
So they're up in the attic, and we've had the rare occasion of going up there after it's been sealed up for years,
Yeah.
and we can't move the hatch, and because things are sitting on top of it. And then when we finally get it moved, toys start falling down.
Right. There's no way for anyone to have,
No,
Been up there.
yeah, you couldn't have
kids
closed
can't
it.
get up there. You know, we
Yeah.
have like you have to get a ladder
Ladder
from
to
the
get up,
basement and get in there. And the tubs are moved, and some are opened, and some toys are out. You know, and there's no way for an animal to get in, and then what? Yeah, just decide which tub to open up and play with. You know,
Right.
it's bizarre. And every once in a while, we've heard like a dragging motion up there.
Mhm.
And, you know, at least twice we've gone up and the toys are all disturbed.
Yeah, actually, like what was it? A couple of months ago, I did that. I moved the hatch for the attic and had toys on top of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on past life regressions, all that kind of stuff?
This is yours.
I do believe that it's possible.
Okay,
I
so
absolutely
let me
do.
tell you of a couple of strange things that happened to me, and that involves that, and it's kind of spooky because when the ghost is you, not you, it's a whole different thing.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm 5 years old. I'm in kindergarten. I'm at Keith Young's house. We're running around in the basement around the heater because that's what you did after you watched Lost in Space and had your macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So anyway, so there was a oil lantern from the railroad from like the 1800s hanging in his basement. And I saw it and I went catatonic.
Wow.
I just for 10 minutes. So the mom's downstairs trying to wake me up. So as I go into that, boom, next thing you know, I'm holding this lantern.
Wow, that's cool.
She's like, this fucking Pollock kid.
So
man.
I'm holding this lantern. It's dark. It's in the 18 something,
Wow.
And it's raining and we're coming up on this curve and there's this bridge and the bridge is out.
She's like, note to self, no more
We have
bohawks
to
in my
stop
house.
the train, right? So we're so next thing you know, trying to stop the train, this, that, and the other thing. We wind up going over. And the person that I am holding this winds up dying, eventually. But I snap out of it after the crash, but the guy's still kind of hanging on. So I'm assuming he died.
Right.
Okay. So then flash forward. I'm 21 years old. I'm in San Diego with my sister in an antique store.
Wow.
And I look up and I'm like, oh my God. It's the train that I died on with the same number on it going around that very thing with the bridge out. I should have bought it. But when you're 21 years old, $500 for a painting when you have $530 in your bank account isn't a lot.
You can't do it.
Yeah, but I was like, oh my God. Totally bizarre. Totally bizarre. Now, I don't know what this story's all about, but another time I come home, long day, 18 hours on the stage, come home, lay down next to my girlfriend, and I feel footsteps up the bed. And I'm like, what the fuck is that?
Did you have a cat?
I'm like, Kim, no, I'm allergic to cats. And if you were here earlier, we were listening to the Disney haunted, eerie, scary, whatever album that I posted that you liked the other day, Steve.
That thing's
prior, and that's why I hate cats.
Old memories.
Yeah. So I wake up, Kim. I'm like, hey, she's like, not tonight. I'm like, no. I mean, did you hear?
Not tonight.
Walking up to bed,
She's like, it's not the first of the month yet, Vince.
She's like, shut up, go to bed. So I'm like, okay. So I remember I laid down and I looked at the clock and it was 1:15. Then 30 seconds later, running up the bed and I feel something stab me in the back. Next thing I know, I'm looking at the clock. It's 3:40 a.m. And I'm like, what the hell? And I hear something crash out in the living room. Jeff Pepper had just moved to LA, so he's hanging out on my couch until he finds an apartment. And so I got there. I'm like, Jeff, maybe he knocked something over. I'm like, hey man, did the glass break? He's like, no, I heard it. That's what woke him up. I woke up my brother. Kim was still sleeping. But so then in the morning, we're all getting ready for breakfast and everything, or for work, and I'm, Ray's making breakfast, and everyone's getting showered and shaved and everything. And so I start telling him what had happened. He's like, well, lift up your shirt. So I lifted up my shirt, and right where I got stabbed was a round scab.
Damn.
Huh.
Right in the middle of my back.
Huh.
Don't know what it was, but it happened.
It was.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And they just came out with another study saying that all time does indeed happen at once.
Interesting.
What do you think about that, Steve?
Quantum entanglement.
Yep. Past, present, and future all at the same time.
Quantum entanglement.
Yeah, well, time's an illusion. It's all we have is at this present moment.
Right.
It's interesting.
Be present.
I have a good friend. I don't know if you guys have heard. I just had my friend George Dalzell. He wrote this book. It's called Messages. Barb, you would probably like it. And yeah, there we go. It's called Messages. And he wrote this book. And this it's very good.
What's
It's
the subtitle on it, Steve? It says Messages.
On
Evidence
life and
for
death.
life after death.
Okay.
It's a scientifically controlled study where George lost his good friend, and he was very skeptical. He's a social worker now, but he was part of a study at the University of Arizona by Gary Schwartz. I don't know if that rings a bell for you, Barb. Gary E. Schwartz,
I'm not sure.
paranormal researcher. But he was in a scientific controlled environment. He was communicating with his friend that had died, and they were dialoguing, having taking questions, and in the controlled environment, basically they were proving that there was communication between George and his friend who had passed. Very interesting book, Messages. You might enjoy that.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I had not communicated with my brother that way through someone giving me a reading.
Yeah.
And asked, basically it reaffirmed all of my views on what I think it is. And it was very interesting because the questions were different from ones you would expect to ask. You know what I mean? Because my baseline isn't religion.
Right.
It's something totally different. So, he was basically saying everything that I believe to be true. And Steve, I don't want to get into everything here, but Steve knows, Jason pretty much may know, I don't know, but me and Steve have gone on major, conversations on this point, and it proved everything that I believe to be true, but no one else would take it as proof.
Yeah.
Well, it could be different for each person as well.
Sure. You know what I mean? And it was interesting because, So, but I had like a 3-hour conversation with Ray like 3 weeks after he died.
Wow.
So that was interesting. And like he answered all the questions that I needed to know.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So it was very, it was really, bizarre because I did a podcast 20 hours after my brother committed suicide. And it was on a paranormal, Mary Marshall ghost hunter, paranormal MD. And she's a friend of the family. So I felt safe going on there. Mm-hmm. And right before I'm doing that, I had to call my son to drop off because we're under lockdown because of COVID. So I had him bring over the laptop of mine that he had because my computer, half hour before, 25 tabs open, all this stuff, all my electronics flashed on and off. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, it's my brother stressing me out half hour before showtime because he would get his anxiety would go through the roof half hour before showtime on anything. And I was always chill. It's just, it's just another minute, anyway. So did that. As soon as I was done. Okay. So Seth brings over the laptop. I set it up, get it running. Boom. All of a sudden my main computer's fine. Get through the entire podcast. Then 25, 35 tabs open. Tick, 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 tick. Everything flashes on and off. And I'm laughing because it's my brother. I'm like, you dick. And then 2 days later, when they would have played taps had he been buried properly, but he hasn't yet even. That's another thing. So anyway, so I played taps on his behalf. And so I sat there and I put my hand on my heart and did the thing. I played taps. And as soon as it was done, 35 tabs opened again. And everything, my phone flashed on and off, my computer, my tablet, everything was, So I'm like, okay, he's there.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's so common. People report that all the time. I've experienced that when my mom died. I came home, lights were on in the house, never left lights on. She passed away at the hospital. Lights were on in her closet. I walked in, and the light in the bathroom when I walked in was wigging out. Lost a friend of mine a few years ago, good Navy buddy, and when he passed, I found out later when it was. I had all sorts of weird things happening with the electronics in the house. So,
Right.
And the funny thing, he told his wife, he said, when I go, he told her, he said, watch the electronics. And sure enough,
Interesting.
he
Yep.
did, and where he was, everything was turning on and off.
Yeah.
So the electromagnetic, our bodies are, electromagnetic power plants. Every one of our cells.
Frequency.
And
Yes, frequency,
and
yeah.
I would think that's probably the easiest thing to manipulate when you
Yeah, you're
cross
probably
over.
right. Yeah.
That that's a go-to.
Yeah.
Other things take time, energy, concentration.
Right, because if you do
moving
turn
an
into
object.
energy, you are energy at that point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So
So
you're not really manipulating it. You're working within it.
right, exactly.
Yeah. Well, it could be part of a release too. I mean, maybe you're running around the place when you're released. It's like, where do I go? What do I do? I
It
mean,
could be,
Right.
it could be.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, after my mom passed, I was, my mom passed away, and my dad went to live with my sister because he had, was quite deep into dementia at that point.
Mhm.
I was getting their house ready to clean it out and get it ready to sell.
Yeah.
And I was driving by one afternoon. It was like 20 degrees. It was February. And her bedroom window is wide open. So I had, my daughter with me. I pulled into the driveway and I'm like, I'm not going in. It's got to be an intruder. There's got to be somebody broken into her house. So I called my husband and he ran over, checked the entire perimeter. Every door was locked. So we still went in cautiously and went through the house. There was nobody there.
Yeah.
Went up into my mother's bedroom, and the house was built, I believe, in I think it was built in 1964. And it had the big old windows with the latch at the bottom that you had to open and shove.
right.
And this window was open and shoved as far out as it could get, but the room was still warm. 20 degrees out, that would have just, sucked right into the house.
Right.
Walked in, her bedroom was still warm, and I had to take that window and pull it and latch it with force. My mother opened that window.
Yeah.
That window was open just as I went to drive by.
Yeah. Like when my grandmother passed away, she would come and see me for like 3 years afterwards. Like if I was in a tough spot, I'd talk to my grandma before I went to bed. And before I could fall asleep, she'd appear. And we would talk non-verbally.
My grandmother talked to me in dreams.
Yeah, and
we
I've had dream talks too, but this is like totally, like as real as you are.
Yep.
In my hallway of my apartment, while all this weird shit's going on. We have a poltergeist in the place, you know what I mean?
Well, there's always something. There was one night I had just gone to bed. I wasn't anywhere near sleep yet. I just shut off my light and I felt someone, and it was male. I could tell it was male. Start at the end of my bed and climb in next to me. And the next thing I knew, he intertwined his hand with, his fingers with my hand, and he wanted me to leave with him. He sat up and wanted me to go. And
Yeah.
the first thought in my head was, oh, hell no. You know, what is this?
Yeah.
And then he was gone.
Yeah.
And, you know, come to find out later, it was someone who was waiting for his wife to cross over. And he was recently deceased and was very confused. He was in the wrong house.
Right.
But it just struck me as, you know.
Yeah. One of the times when my sister, she lived in Costa Mesa, and she was managing this building, and they heard rumors that, you know, there's been like 10 managers in 2 years that keep on moving out because there's weird things afoot.
Wow.
So, you all right, Steve?
Yeah, right back.
All right. So basically what happened was they started hearing this noise in the cabinet upstairs, right? Dum, dum. So you're hearing this. At the same time, her 7-year-old is laying down in front of the television set going, I hope you burn in hell. So he's got this like demonic voice going on. The cabinet's going. So she's there with her friend. They and the cabinet starts going, chukung, 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 opening up. So they get a drill, or I'm not a drill, a hammer, and they nail the thing shut. Call the police, animal control, because I think there's something in there. Well, the police come over, animal control comes over. There's nothing in the cabinet. They moved like a week and a half later. Like,
yeah,
like, we're out of here. You know, bye-bye.
Oh yeah. Well, I've had, you know, I've had with my house, I was alone one day. The kids were at school, sitting on the sofa, and I hear footsteps coming up from my basement.
Oh no.
It's footsteps, you know, coming up my basement stairs. And to me, it's all right. I gotta get to the basement door and open it and surprise them before they can surprise me.
Right.
And I got up, I went to that door and I flung it open. So my basement was completely empty. And my daughter's been woke up in the night hearing the doorknob to the basement rattling. And she was waiting. She's like, well, somebody's, you know, trying to get, you know, somebody's having trouble getting in. She got out of bed and went to open it. Nobody's there.
Yeah.
You know, there's always something.
Creepy.
And Darren's got a ghost of a cat in his house.
What?
Yes.
That just proves that cats are jagoffs.
Listen, when you said that at the beginning of the show,
fuck cats.
I'm
Okay,
like,
let's
the
hear the
damn
story.
cat.
How do you know
Yeah.
it's a cat?
Well, you know, because my oldest daughter, who is on the paranormal team,
Okay.
with Barb, and that's how I kind of got sucked into all of this, because I'm kind of the skeptic of the deal here.
There he is.
Look at that guy.
How
Jeez.
about that?
And my daughter Nicole, since she was little, she's always had this
Thing.
She's always been
She's
a
sensitive.
freaky kid. She's sensitive, and she's
Right,
just
right, right.
always done shit and known shit and seen shit, and you know, since she was little. So I was like, you know, hey, you know, she'd fit into the team really well. So I started tagging along because their tech stuff was just cords in a bundle in a basket, you know. And
That's
I'm
why
like,
you started.
all right, you know, being a musician, you know, and setting up stages, you guys got to get organized here. So I started doing like the techie shit for
I'm
these
offended by the way you wrap a cord. guys.
yeah. Well, you have all these young
under,
girls. You know?
over, under,
Yeah,
over,
yeah.
under. How many times?
So, you know, you got like 2 hours to go in a place and tear down, you know, when we can tear down a stage in 15 minutes, you know, Jay. I mean, so it's like, so I started tagging along doing techie stuff with these guys.
Yeah.
And being the skeptic guy. And I'm truly
Which
amazed.
is totally healthy
at,
to have around.
And but
you have a ghost cat.
I'm amazed. Anyway, the ghost cat. So my
Yeah.
daughter Nicole, the first I got this house, and you know, we were feeling something rub across the back of your legs at the dinner table, and you'd hear something like, you know, scratch on the couch, you know, and it's like, so
Right.
my daughter was in my house one night. She's getting ready to leave, and she's by the door, and she's talking to me, and she like twists really quick, and she looks down the hallway, and she goes, I just saw a cat. And I never told her about the cat.
Oh,
But
that's
the other,
interesting.
but one night,
Yes.
I was laying in bed and Darren says, oh, because he has a cat.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you know, I didn't let Bo in, you know, because she was outside. So he got up to go let Bo in. And as I'm laying there, I felt a cat jump up on the pillow next to me. And I just about opened my mouth to yell, no, she's here. And I look and there's nothing there.
That's the first time I've ever heard of that. That's
Yeah, and I've actually been laying in bed and heard the cat scratch in the litter box, and then go out to the living room, and the cat's outside.
So there's ghost pooping.
Yeah.
The ghost pooping is scratching in the litter box, dude. Listen,
Put
it's
like ghost catnip.
Yeah,
out
but
there.
it's hypoallergenic. That's the cat you need.
It's like
Hypoallergenic.
hanging around these crazy bitches is starting to rub off on me here. It's like
Yeah, that's it.
So. But anyway, between my daughter and Barb, they're like super sensitive.
Yeah.
It's really cool to watch them in the field and watch them in action, and to kind of tag along, like being the skeptic, and then to have my own experiences with these guys.
Right.
It's been really eye-opening and made me like, all right, there's something here that I can be the skeptic and still do that and still debunk, because I'm the guy like, all right, you do this and you hear this and you see this. All right, find out why. But then when you have things you can't explain,
Right.
and you have EVPs that you catch.
Yeah, let's get into that. So we have Barb, you sent me 3
I sent you
different
3.
recordings.
Yes.
And everyone here, well, Jason is we're both trained and we have a degree in audio engineering.
Okay. If you
And
want
Yeah.
okay, great. I would love that, especially the heat one.
Yeah.
The
All
one
right,
about
so
the heat.
This is 3 out of like 1,000 that she has. So I
Right.
got to
Okay, so
tell
I'm
you.
going to start with,
this
do
is-
you want to sit there for medicine?
Oh yeah, that was an odd one. That's up in we were investigating in the Rivoli Theater, which is in South Fallsburg in New York. It's extremely active.
Yeah.
That's what we think that this says, but it was just
Right.
such an odd
Now,
thing.
with this equipment that you're using, what frequency are you recording at? Or are you just open recording?
It's open recording. The EVP recorders.
I'm
really not sure.
Digital voice
yeah, it's a
recorder.
digital voice recorders, but they record like beyond the human ear.
Right.
Really weird, because sometimes you'll catch things that
Right.
you hear and then you get it, which is really cool.
Right. And I've heard a ton. I've studied this for a long time.
I'm
And
still on the fence about all of this because I have my own kind of theories.
There's one
because
that I
it's like,
have a theory about.
these guys get stuff that I'm like, you
Right.
shouldn't be getting this, and this is too damn clear, because
At this point in the Rivoli Theater, we've been there at least five
half
or
a
six
dozen
times.
times.
And now when we're there, we're starting to get it where we hear it said beside us. And,
And
not
get it.
just on
Right,
the
right.
recording, but actually hear it.
Right.
Here and there,
Interesting.
we're getting words where I'm like, well, what did you just hear? And we can confirm
Yeah,
it.
and I'd like to know-
It's sorry.
No.
And it's on the recording as well.
And I'd like
So
to know
things
your
are-
take on this too, because this is something.
I have a
EVP
theory
recordings, I'm
on
still-
one of them.
Okay.
So it's going to be interesting. So I don't know which one it is, but
All
I'm
right.
going to start out with, do you
Okay,
want?
good.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
So everyone, okay, ready, Jason? Your microphone's off.
How about now?
What do you eat a bunch of cheese and just ripping away?
Yeah,
All right, so
I'm
this
partying, man.
So this is a recording supposedly of spirits. Steve, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. See, that one I didn't hear too well on this, but you can hear it whispered.
It's real low.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one.
Without anybody around.
Yeah,
Just leave
anytime
it
you
and then
guys
come
wanna
back
do
in the
that,
morning
like-
and do that. That's a great idea.
over the next few months. So
Yeah, we certainly could do that.
Did you hear that? All right, let's
I heard
fail.
that. I heard that one. Yeah.
All right, let's listen to it again.
Without anybody around.
Yeah,
Just leave
anytime
it
you
and then
guys
come
wanna
back
do
in the
that,
morning
like-
and do that. That's a great idea.
over the next few months. So
Yeah, we certainly could do that.
Yeah, that one was pretty.
You can hear that.
Yeah,
That
that's
was,
obvious.
Yeah, and it was none of us.
Right.
Well,
Right.
none of the girls, and it's definitely not me. So
Yeah, the one thing that was incredibly clear, which
Yeah.
usually they are not. So it almost sounds like someone speaking into a microphone somewhere and it was picked up. I could be wrong, but that
Right.
just is too clear.
That
'Cause
one we
usually
thought was very oddly
present.
present,
Yeah. And
but it was not the only one in that building that night.
Gotcha. But were
And
they all
in that
clear?
particular room,
right.
Yeah.
in that particular room, which was actually the where we had our base camp set up,
Uh-huh.
and that's why there was so much chit chat among ourselves, because we had food there, we had, you know, cameras
Yeah.
and everything, and we'd kind of come back and regroup, and we got quite a few things, but a lot of it was directed at what we were doing.
Okay.
But even the terminology, like, all right, let's sail. I
That
mean,
was
Yeah.
it was
it was
odd.
weird.
That-
It was
yeah.
so odd because, like, we
Right,
wouldn't
right,
say that if we were,
Right.
you know, if we were going out to check out
Right,
a room.
let's
you know,
motor,
we would
let's
say,
roll.
"Hey, all right,
Right.
let's sail." You know, we would.
It
It's
was-
not
it was
something we would
odd.
say. You know.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yeah, that one just seemed a little bit too clear.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the next one,
Yeah.
the
There we go.
next one, I'll tell you just the background of that.
Yeah.
Was we were in the Rivoli Theater. During the winter, they have the heat off, they have the water off, everything. It's the building is ice.
Cold.
It's ice.
Yeah.
And I had the rest of the team in another part of the building. I was sitting at base camp, freezing my ass off.
alone.
Yeah.
I had the monitor, I'm watching the cameras, and I'm sitting there, I'm rubbing my hands on my thighs, I'm doing, you know, whatever I can to keep warm, I'm bundled up and so on. And then, you know, I have a voice recorder running
We
next to
always
me.
have one when we're at anytime at base camp. There's always an EVP recorder running.
But we,
Yeah.
you know, that it was quiet, I'm alone, and this got picked up by the recorder. And when I heard it, my first reaction was I threw the headphones. And then I waited a second. I'm like, wait now, because our theory is from the research and other experiences we've had there is that one of the spirits in this building is one of the original owners. And I think this was him concerned over the fact that we were there and just so ice cold.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's that one. That's more, yeah, that's totally more in line of, you know, what
I was
accustomed.
But even so, that's more in line with it, but it's also still to have something so long, to have something that sentences long
Right.
Yeah.
is unique. And I really think
Extended.
it's one of the original owners watching over things. And we were in his building that he loved it for so many years.
Right.
Yeah.
And we were there and we were cold. It wasn't
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
like a
trying to-
word or two. An
Go ahead.
EVP with like a word or two or three is one thing, but you know, it's like,
Right.
you know, I mean, and even like, I mean, I don't know.
Well, you know,
I'm still so skeptical on EVPs. You can
Yeah.
ask Barb. We go around and around about this
well, we
because
do.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
But
this is not right.
but
you know, this is
one
not-
of the first places that Darren and I went before we went as a team, I had a voice recorder with us, and we went to the Beaver Kill Cemetery. We were just walking around because it's old. Part of it dates back
Right.
to the Revolutionary War.
revolutionary.
It's
yeah.
amazing,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I love cemeteries. I could live in a cemetery and I'd be
Yeah.
perfectly happy. 19 seconds in on the recording,
First time I ever went out with her to do anything, you know, with
yeah, he
like
takes
the-
me to a cemetery.
Yeah.
Freak.
Hey, perfect, right?
Baby,
Yeah.
let's go to a cemetery.
Yeah.
So I turned on the recorder just
That gets them all horny, the cemetery, you know?
Yeah.
You shut it off before that, Jason.
You scared,
Well,
honey?
Yeah, I was like,
but
Better
you
than
know,
the
we
back
weren't-
seat of a car.
no, this was outside.
Yeah, but we weren't
Bring a
asking
blanket.
questions. We weren't asking questions. We weren't trying to, we weren't trying to find anything. I just had it running as we walked through.
Yeah,
and
you weren't
19
trying.
seconds in,
Yeah.
we have a male whisper that says, "There's no one left." And
Wow.
it just jaw
Yeah.
dropped Darren.
And-
I'm
and
like,
you
what the
believe-
hell
no,
is
no,
this?
No, we
Perfect.
got 3 other guys right now thinking this. Here she is. She's got a recording running in her pocket. First date in a cemetery,
Yeah.
and the
yeah.
EMP's like, Barb, fucking run. Darren's a good. It's okay. Yeah,
He's a horny bastard.
Jay would know.
It's very interesting.
Well, EVPs are just like my Achilles heel with these guys because they get so much good stuff on EVP. I'm like,
Yeah.
this can't be happening.
But it's only in certain places.
We got a place. We had a bed and breakfast we go to, and this place after doing research, it's on a ley line. That's which is another thing.
Right.
My daughter Nicole is in this room, and we pick up this EVP of a little girl singing.
Oh yeah, like as if she was down the hallway.
Like
you could barely
she's
hear it.
singing, and it's so far away. But my daughter Nicole goes, "Do you have a favorite room here?" And just typical of a little kid, you hear this little tiny girl go, "Have a favorite room here?"
Yeah,
like asking her the question back.
Yeah.
Right.
And it just knocked my socks off. I'm like,
But that's another place.
and there's no way you can fake this. I mean, it's a little girl,
But that's another place that's really active. And what they had said to us initially was that when they were renovating.
Yeah, they started getting a lot of stuff.
Well, which
that happens a lot. The disruption.
Yeah.
But
What was the place?
They want to remain anonymous.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
No, but what
they don't.
What
some
state
people
is it
don't-
in?
Well,
Yeah.
New York.
Okay.
Is it something that I know, Darren? Or
You might.
yeah.
Yeah, you might. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Okay.
He'll tell you.
And but the thing is with this is the owners. Some people, we don't want people to know that there's activity here.
Right.
It's gonna drive away
Now there's some
customers,
weirdness with the whole the EMP thing. That's it's very interesting. One, there's obviously something happening.
Yeah. Agreed.
Two, there's obviously people wanting something to happen.
Yes, agreed.
So it can be my skepticism on this is that if I tell you that's what it says, that's what you're going to hear.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
So, I mean that just makes sense to me. You know.
Yeah.
What I mean?
And I have a theory. I have a theory of can your belief or thought of something implant on a tape?
Okay, let's go to Steve on that.
Sure.
Can you? All right. Say.
Anything that our brains are every single one of our cells has receptors.
Right.
Every single cell has a receptor. Anything that has a receptor is also a transmitter. We have 36 trillion cells in us, and every cell has mitochondria, which is a power plant.
Mm-hmm.
So we're electromagnetic radiation phenomenon.
Right.
So thoughts travel through our brain. If any electrical currents that travel through us also travel out of us. So we're transmitters. We transmit, but we're also receivers. So we're transceivers as human beings.
Right.
So yeah,
and that's why we call them.
That's possible. I mean, some of the things they get are incredibly legit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things that are coming through from somewhere else.
No doubt. No doubt.
But some things that are like all right, let's sail. I mean, could that subconsciously?
No, I don't think that's.
Could subconsciously somebody have thought that and it implanted on a tape? See, this is the skeptic in me that she does. It keeps. Instead of everything is a ghost.
And it's all okay because if you're questioning, you're advancing anyway. No matter
Well,
what,
the
you
ma-
do, as long as you're questioning, you're always advancing. If
Oh,
you're
Right.
curious to question.
Absolutely. And you have to
Yeah.
question. I think whenever there's anything that has any ounce of doubt to it, if you
Right.
listen to something, well, it could be this, it could be that, whatever, we throw it out.
Yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
so I listen to things and it's like, well, this could this be one of the team? Out it goes. You can't be in the field and have doubt about what you put out there, because if what you're putting out you can't support,
Yeah.
then it's not worthwhile.
Yeah.
Well, the technology for sensing anomalies in electromagnetic fluctuations in many applications are still very much in infancy. So as I mean, think about it. In our body, if we had the capacity to measure electromagnetic fluctuations in single cells, well, there's 32 trillion variables in all the cells that we carry around. And about half of them aren't even indigenous to our bodies. They're bacteria. So, I mean, there's so much we don't know. And humans, we're so full of hubris. We think we're so smart. There's so much we don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And, for people to say that they know, they don't know.
No, they don't.
No.
Just like we don't.
Like, especially like let's bring religion into it. You have, billions of people who believe in an invisible ghost, but once people say, "Oh, look, I have an invisible ghost," oh, you're full of shit.
Right. We had this conversation on the
and it's only like and there's no influence. We didn't talk about this, but it's like, okay, so if you're not religious, you're a schizophrenic, but if you're religious, you're a fucking prophet.
We had this conversation on the way here today.
I would believe those who don't believe more,
right?
If it were, let's say, a religious message, quote unquote,
right,
than someone who's holy roller, speaking in tongues and all this, kind of thing. But
a billion people can believe in a religion,
right?
But one person says they believe in spirits or ghosts, and you're a nut.
Well, I'll tell you, for this book, a lot of people sent in their experience and said, the first thing is like, you may think I'm crazy. I've had paranormal investigators out in the field have an experience and say to me, they have to preface it. You may think I'm crazy, but people who send in experiences to the book, a lot of them, some wanted to remain anonymous. Some said, well, I want to share my experience with you, but I don't know if I want it in the book because I don't know if I want my family to read it. I don't know if I want my friends to see it.
Yeah.
And there is still such a stigma of I saw this. I know I saw this stinking apparition, and I can't tell people.
I don't think I'm nuts.
And this coming from a world where half the people believe in a Holy Ghost.
Right.
That's just crazy.
My point.
That's just a weird, just a weird thing to me.
Thanks, guys.
You're fine.
Have a good one, brother.
I'm still hanging around.
All right. Someone's got to pee.
Jason's done it 3
Happens
times.
at our age,
Well, one of the things, there was a paranormal investigator that worked at the last college that I ran in Gainesville. He actually did some shows. He had an interesting theory about some of the places that he would investigate. He was looking at anomalies where there was water involved and geologic places built over certain geological similar areas.
Water has a certain resonance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, but what he felt was that certain physical structures were capturing people's electromagnetic transmissions if they had an experience there, a strong experience, and it was like magnetic tape. It was impressing on the physical environment. So those that were more susceptible to walk into that physical environment again, whatever reason in their bodies, they were picking up on these broadcasts and they were replaying.
Well,
So that was one of his explanations for what was going on, but not the only one.
Sure.
I found that very interesting. Yeah.
There's a place in Hurleyville, New York. It's on the rail trail, and there in the, I think it was around 1920s, early 1920s, there was a steam engine that went through there, and it exploded, and it killed a number of people.
Right.
And our county historian has asked me over the years, and I still haven't gotten there. He's wanted us to go in as a team and investigate the area because there's been various reports of, things happening in that location.
Yeah.
Right.
I was going to walk through with a friend of mine who's a paranormal investigator over in England. She came over for a visit, and I had my youngest son with me. And as we started down the trail, I would say not even a quarter of a mile from where the explosion had happened, he stopped. Dead stop, wouldn't continue on, wouldn't let me continue on, took me by the arm and, really pulled.
Yeah.
I had to go back to the car with him. He was not going to go farther. And he didn't know a story. He didn't know the history. He didn't know anything that had happened. He only knew that we were going for a walk.
Right.
And, and being nonverbal, he couldn't express to me what he was feeling or seeing or sensing.
Sure.
But he knew that we were not going one step further.
Right.
That's interesting. Just last week, so I drive during the week, I drive people to and from surgery. Okay. And I take people downtown to Chicago, blah, 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 and back. So normally after a run, especially of that long, I'll stop and I'll have a cigarette. 3 to 4 minutes. I'm not one of these people who linger. I smoke and I'm done. So that I decided not to do that for some reason and drove back to the clinic. Well, 3 minutes after I left, the building blew up across the street.
Wow.
But this kind of things happens to me constantly. Now, getting back to what you were saying, Steve, and what you were saying, Barb, to the response to Steve, I believe there's a thing called organic memory. So just like muscle memory, okay, just because, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bicep. Your brain is also a muscle. So are you picking up, if you have the memory of it and it, because I disc golf, so I can literally go to the same hole, close my eyes and get it right next to the pin because I've played that hole 150 times at least. And I know it's going to land right there. So it's almost like the same kind of thing. If you're open to that and you have that type of setup or you're not averse to it, of course you're going to pick it up.
But you know what? We're all, people don't really realize the intuition that we have,
Right. Yeah. Like I always tell my friends, if you're with me anywhere and you see me bolt, don't ask any questions.
Yeah,
just follow me.
Fucking run.
Because I'm right.
Yeah.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's how I've never. I could have gotten in trouble so many times in my life, but I know when to leave.
I know this is a whole other subject, but I've been reading a lot of books on our subconscious versus,
I think,
yeah. We're not even tapping into the brain power that we have.
It's true.
No, we're kindergartners.
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah. You have to be open to it and you have to really, really pursue the knowledge of it. But
right.
Well, it's like you guys remember from lighting, well, even with the audio signal to noise ratio.
Yeah.
When we have, every single one of our cells has sensory capacity, and then we have specialized cells that gather, like our eyes are capturing electromagnetic radiation at this particular frequency.
Yeah.
Right. So we are walking sensory receivers, and we're constantly bombarded with feedback from every single cell in our body. But we can't, and most of the feedback is discarded because our brains are, they're okay, but our memories are limited. Human memory is spotty. We forget things. Our brain cells replace.
Right.
And so much of the information we take in is never really part of our consciousness. And then we fill ourselves, if you think about it, with tons of stimulators that distract us from what's going on. We got our headphones on. We got looking at our iPad.
Well, that's the whole problem.
screens.
The more advanced we are, the dumber people get.
Well, yeah, we're just completely tuned out of what's going
Another
on.
100 years,
us.
there's just going to be drones walking around.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let's face it. That's the whole plan. That's the whole.
Yeah, we'll
plan.
be send my avatar to the grocery store.
Yeah.
You know, Bruce Willis, the deep fake thing. Oh, so we covered deep fake
last week.
So now, okay, this is kind of interesting because it kind of figures into it. Now that people are basically going to become ghosts of themselves, but they can continue to work.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. Bruce Willis signed over his likeness to deep fake so they can use him in commercials, television, and film. Television and film is an individual license per project.
What?
But as far as for advertising, Bruce Willis is going to be in probably everything left and right overseas. And then you have they used Anthony Bourdain's texts after he passed away for a documentary for his last days. I think that's way intrusive.
Wow.
Right.
James Earl Jones sold. He will forever be Darth Vader. No one else will ever voice Darth Vader. I think that is
that's great.
Guy, that's great.
Yeah, that's good.
So over 10,000 files, they have all the syllables, all the consonants, everything. He'll forever be Darth Vader. Someone just talks, and the Darth Vader filter takes over.
It's wild.
So now, are we dead?
Right.
Or we're living on in a different way.
Right.
Well,
that's
exactly
kind of interesting. Like, where's the line of privacy versus being hoarded out?
Right.
Like now you're going to be in a bunch of shit that you wouldn't support or whatever. But if the family's making $50 million a year, who gives a fuck?
Right.
Well, it goes hand in hand with, in physics, energy is never destroyed. It's only transferred.
Right.
So, when our bodies die, 32 trillion cells, all the energy that's being generated, where does it all go? It's not destroyed. It's transferred. Where does it transfer? That's probably what's going on with maybe with the electronics, nearby. And when you think about it, if like my friend Joe, when he passed, the electronics in the hospital room were turning on and off, and in my bedroom. But if he's everywhere, and like where do I go now? I mean, I don't know, but on an electromagnetic on any network,
right?
Any electromagnetic network is traveling at the speed of light. If it's quantum, there's no distance.
Yeah.
So we know so little. I mean, we're the humans are ignoramuses when it comes to these things, and consciousness. We're just beginning to scratch the surface. So much to learn.
So here's an interesting thing that happened to me over the summer. So I go on my first vacation in 15 years. We go to this little town, 300 people. It's Macedonia, Iowa. Okay, so we're there. Starts raining. Then it starts raining really bad. Then we get hail. And I tell my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, hey, just so you know, you're from California. Shit's about to get serious. Be aware. Boom. Next thing you know, we get this thing. Take shelter immediately due to physical harm or imminent death.
Right.
If you do not seek shelter. So, of course, we have to go outside of the Airbnb that we rented, go out in the yard, open up the two doors,
right,
go down into the cellar that looks like a pizza oven. And the doors are dunk, 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 dunk. I'm a tornado expert just by chance. We built a 50-foot physical tornado for a Volvo commercial in 8.5 weeks, and it took the government 8 years to build an 8-foot one. We also did the David Copperfield fire tornado that people may have saw. Anyway, so this tornado falls in 3 blocks away, and it lands in the strip in between these two small towns, plows right through it. 3 blocks from where we're staying.
Wow.
Not even 24 hours later, we're coming back. And now this is the area where my books take place. So we're looking for a bridge called Heartbeat Bridge. And this is where the lady from Portal School, she locked the doors, beheaded her 7 children in the class, cut out their hearts.
Wow.
And they took all the hearts to this place in a bridge and dumped it in the creek or the small river.
Wow.
So we were looking for this bridge where she dumped this thing in. Couldn't find it. We come back. We're cruising up into town, and we see a 17-year-old girl giving CPR roadside. And we're like, shit. Boom, slam my car, and I hop out. I'm trained and licensed, so I'm like, okay. So I get there, and she's like, okay, da da da. I'm like, okay, keep on doing compressions. So the cop shows up. He's trying to get the mask and everything. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm trying to get them. I'm like, no, it's compressions only.
Right.
Like, this has been around for like 5 years, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah.
So he's going into shock. So I have to get him away.
Mhm.
So he goes away. The guy who ran over the kid in the Harley, I have to get him away, trying to give. And then I'm holding up, the mouth and the neck of this boy, who I thought was 13, turned out to be a big kid. He was 9, passes away in my hands with another person. Right. So he wasn't bleeding when he showed up. Half of his calf was missing. He had a cut on his head, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so PTSD event, 2 in like 24 hours. So I'm like, not really having it. The next day we go to Madison, or the Bridges of Madison County. She wanted to see the Bridges of Madison County, favorite movie. So we go there. I have my window cracked this much, and a white butterfly comes and lands on my hand on the steering wheel. And I'm like, hey, name of the kid. I'm like, hey, I tried my best. Sorry I couldn't do more, but I'm glad I was there with you at the end. At least you had someone friendly there with you, rather than a high stress thing. So we leave there. I'm like, okay, try not to think about it too much. We leave there, turn on the radio. This is 3 blocks away in the middle of fucking nowhere. And the song comes on. Oh, it's a sign. It's a sign. It's a sign. Blah, blah, it's a sign. Look up, and it's the Kid Who Died Street. Whatever, Chuck Avenue, let's just say. Right after the song is saying it's a sign, after I saw this butterfly land on myself. And this shit happens to me all the time. So what do you think about that kind of stuff? Like the coincidence
Oh, there are no coincidences.
type of thing. Steve, I know you and me have talked about this before.
Yeah, I like what Barb says. I agree.
Yeah. It's very mind-blowing.
It's no coincidence, it's just convergence. Sometimes
right.
you get a lot of convergence.
Believe in God.
Yeah.
What was that?
I can believe in that, but I still can't believe in God. And everyone's like, oh, well, that's that. I'm like, what evidence do you have? Just because that exists doesn't mean that exists in the way that you're explaining it.
Well, that's what it comes down to. I mean, when you think about it, there are many gods throughout mythology and different cultures.
Rather than a guy in a dress.
Like one single dude. I think one single person. One single bearded Wonder Man.
Right. Goddess Jesus.
Well, okay. But there are lots of flavors,
Right.
In mythology through human history. I mean, you've got, the list it's just a pronoun for the explanation of something typically supernatural or, beyond our understanding.
Yeah. So I've rebooted Jesus. Now we get the prophets of Chevelle. After that, I reboot Buddha.
Yeah.
And it's Rebuddha hippie chick.
So
I reboot Buddha.
You got to keep going.
Yeah.
Now, when you get to Hinduism, you're going to have a bunch of them. So you're going to have to work through all the different gods.
Yeah, I've got Noah reboot, which is a sci-fi. Like my whole view on that, like everyone's like, oh, Noah's Ark. I'm like, okay, they said it was a rudderless craft. Okay, so why wouldn't it be a spaceship? And the only way you can get 2x2 or 2x7 if they're not dirty, or if they are dirty, the only way to do that is in a DNA bank, and that makes total sense to me.
Right. Well, that's
more sense to me than anything. A DNA bank, you can fit everything in like 5 square feet.
Well, that story,
all these animals shitting everywhere.
Yeah, that story is in mythology all across the globe.
Right.
Slightly different, different names. But that the flood survival story is found everywhere. As a matter of fact, the Sumerian story, Noah's kind of a rip-off of the Sumerian story, but there's way more than that.
Gilgamesh. Yeah. And then you have you can look at Africa and you can see the eye of Africa.
Right.
Okay. If you look on a map, like they just posted an article, oh, the Sphinx was underwater. No shit, it's striated. Hello.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, what happened to the Grand Canyon? Dude, when I was 4, I looked at it, I'm like, oh, that's water, like Starved Rock in Illinois. Hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we don't know how it got there.
Hey, if you got any balls, I want you to reboot Allah. You'll be like Salman Rushdie. They'll be trying to stab your ass.
Yeah. How about you do that, you fucking knuckle dragger? Yeah, I ain't touching Muhammad. Yeah, fuck. I'm not stupid. Uppity Christians are one thing, but uppity Muslims, no.
Yeah, entirely another thing.
Yeah, they'll actually kill you.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. So, okay, so I've had a bunch of experience when my, for instance, my sister, who was a DES baby, which means my mom took supplements to become pregnant in the 50s. My brother was sterile. My other sister had problems. My other sister, Irene, her uterus was this way instead of long ways.
Oh, that's hot, man.
So her son died 16 hours after he was born. And so I knew, we were over there. They had to leave for the hospital. We went home, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't hear my mom getting the phone call and leaving midnight. And then me waking up at 7:20. I woke up, I sat up, and I said, Brian's dead. One, I didn't even know the kid's name or what his name would be. And I sat up at the exact time that he died.
So what do you think this is? This is because of some sort of thing your mother was taking? What do you attribute
My
this
sister had premature babies because of a fertility drug that my mom took.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So there's an effects, like my brother was sterile, blah, blah, blah. My other sister had, like, her baby almost died, that kind of thing.
DES, you said?
Yeah.
I have to look that up. That's interesting.
Yeah. It was not too long after the, what do you call it? With the claw hands. Remember?
Thalidomide?
The middle line.
Thalidomide?
Yeah. Remember that lady in New York, in Miami, the reporter? She had the she had the three.
Yeah. No, I don't. I don't recall.
All right. Anyway, so another time this happened, my grandfather passed away, and he lived in Tampa. So I'm like 10 years old. My mom was, going to school not full time, but she's going to school 3 times a week. Had a main job and then a Tupperware job on the side, plus going to school, yada, yada. So I'm having this dream, and I'm walking down the train tracks in my town. I only met my grandfather twice that I remember. And so I'm walking, and his name is Vilo in Czechoslovakian, or William. So he's saying goodbye to me as we're walking down the train track. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of weird. Blah, blah, blah. And I wake up to a phone ringing, and I get it. And he had a caretaker named Dennis Troyan. He's like, hello, Vincent. It's Dennis Troyan. He's Moravian. He's like, Vilo passed away this morning. I'm like, what time? And he gives me the time, and it was the time I was having my dream.
Wow.
So this stuff happens quite frequently.
Yeah.
So have you guys had any experiences similar, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My sister, every time there would be, a death in the family, she would have a dream, and I believe it was my grandmother was letting her know who it was.
Interesting.
Right. Hey, Jason, how was your nap, buddy?
Too short, man.
I was just gonna write, hey, Jason's sleeping. Let everyone change the subject into totally left, maybe on what we're talking about. And he'd be like, what? So there's a lot of things that fall under the umbrella of having experience.
Oh, absolutely.
It could be interdimensional. I think people say, oh, aliens. I think the aliens now I think it's interdimensional. I think they're just going into a different dimension rather than people are like, oh, there's no way they'd be able to make it from their star because it would take, based on our science, you dumbass.
Well, there's been some
around
recent
3 million more years is going to have a totally different outlook on science.
Yeah, I was reading today. There's been some recent discoveries in quantum entanglement and related to black holes, and it's along the lines of the fact that time and space really they're insignificant when it comes to the quantum environment. So
Right, because they're talking about that actually there's a thing called white holes. And they think that's how the universe started. They disproved the Big Bang Theory last month.
oh, that's done. Yeah, that's
I didn't get
toast.
That's just pretty interesting, you know.
Well, you know, the whole, again, we're back to energy is never destroyed. It's only transferred.
Right.
Well, what you know, we keep building better telescopes and we keep saying, oh, look, there's more galaxies, or there's 100 billion more.
Right.
It's like,
Oh,
at what
been
point,
there.
at what point do you keep adding zeros and not surrender? Let's just call it infinite. We live in an infinite universe. There's no end to it. There's no beginning. And you know what?
Point do we realize that we're actually a molecule and a kid's booger on the end of his finger? Because if you pull back far enough, all it looks like a bunch of atoms.
Yeah.
And
well, I get a kick out of it.
Across many things, you know.
Yeah. Well, they keep counting. Well, we discovered 3,000 more planets, and the numbers keep going. You know, a million more galaxies. It's like, will you stop adding zeros? Just call it infinite and call it a day.
Yeah.
All right. That, you know, enough.
You just found 7 more Kardashians. Oh shit! The horror.
Well, that we need to send them to another dimension, you know, and their ilk.
Right.
Go away.
Yeah, time now, then, future, all the same.
Well, yeah.
Me and Steve have had this conversation about time machines and time travel. And my view on time travel is memory is a time machine.
Okay.
Your memory can take you that's the time machine, is your memory. So everyone is able to travel through time because you hear a song, you're 16, you know, you don't have any, you have $10 in your pocket. Someone just dropped the pizza. Your buddy got arrested in the Chevelle Code, so now I can't go to the Rat concert and like all this shit, whatever, but it's a time machine in your mind.
Well, it can be the illusion of time too, because if we're only in the moment, it's an illusion of time.
Yeah, and people say you can only travel forward. Well, why would you make that claim? Why couldn't you travel backward?
Well, maybe you don't travel forward or backward. That's what this,
by the way,
recent discovery of
Quantum Leap reboot, viewers went down 80% after.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Oh, really?
I couldn't even watch it, but Scott Bakula wouldn't participate. But yeah, you know what are you gonna do? Anyone see The Munsters?
I did.
No.
By Rob Zombie. Now, people are poo-pooing it, but you know. The Munsters.
You watched it?
Come on camera, Dan.
You watched it?
Yeah, I watched it tonight.
It's very difficult, The Munsters, because Herman Munster is the most beloved.
Oh, so iconic.
And I thought the guy who did Herman I thought he was pretty good.
He made it his own. He didn't do it in his voice. He did. He made it his own.
Yeah.
Grandpa, I didn't like the mustache.
No, I didn't like the mustache.
Part of it.
Lily, I didn't like the voice.
Lily, she was just pantomiming.
Yeah, the quiver. She did the thing with her voice. I didn't like, but
but
overall, it was campy. It was what it was supposed to be.
Yes, it was a Munsters episode.
It was a Munsters.
They successfully made a Munsters episode.
Rob Zombie did a good job.
Yeah. Like originally, when I was watching it, I'm like, oh my god, what is this train wreck?
Yeah, I kind of thought.
And then as it went on, I'm like, you know what? No, he did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the guys that you give, if you want to reboot an old horror property, no matter what it is, you give it to Rob Zombie.
You give it to Zombie. Yeah.
You know, and I thought that was good. Now, there's another reboot going on. Is the Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice.
I didn't. That one I didn't. I don't know.
I'm 2 episodes in, and I think it's great.
Do you?
Really?
All right.
Yeah, because the way that they rebooted it was smart.
Okay.
Because they're like, oh, remember that guy played by Christian Slater who's a prick when he's well, now he's 65.
Oh, well, all right.
And he's seen everything. So now he's come at it at a different way. Lestat kind of backpedaled in a certain way.
Okay.
So to me, narratively, it was the most because Chris Rice is in charge of it.
Right.
You know, I was lucky enough to
Okay.
go back and forth with Anne Rice a couple of times a year on her page, and that was
Right.
like a huge geek moment.
Right.
But Chris, her son, took over, and he's the
Cool.
showrunner. So he's
Oh.
not going to let anyone fuck that property.
Okay, cool.
Good.
So maybe I should
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah.
I was kind of judging by the previews, so I kind of maybe I should watch. Can't judge a book by its cover, you know.
Yeah,
maybe-
and you know, like I don't know if you're a Game of Thrones fan,
I haven't. No, not really.
but the guy who played the main character is from Games of Thrones. You know,
Okay, cool. All right. You
Yeah.
know, I
I've
should
never
give it a
seen the other
shot.
guy who plays Lestat. I've never seen him before,
Right.
but he plays a really good French gay dude from that time period.
Cool. Okay.
You know, and everything's of the time, and it doesn't run away from it.
Right.
So I think that's kind of inventive in that way.
Cool.
And then the other, what's the other? Werewolf by Night was just released
I haven't heard
2
of
days
that.
ago. It's a Marvel comic book,
Oh, okay. Cool.
and it's a werewolf. So they did it in the 1940s. So they did it in black and white, and like a tribute to the Universal monsters.
Oh,
good.
nice. Nice.
Yeah, and the way they did it was pretty interesting. But
I'll have to check that out too.
yeah, so Marvel is now coming out with their horror comic books
Nice.
from back in the day.
Nice.
Very cool.
Very cool.
You know, so I have to do that's my reboot news,
Nice.
as I'm a reboot Jesus kind of
All
guy.
right, back to Barb.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, back to Barb. So okay, let's go through your books. So
Yeah.
you have, I'm sorry if they're not in order.
That's okay.
Among the Dying Violets.
That's a book of poetry.
And it's my
Cool.
daughter loves that one.
What happened?
My daughter Nicole is like infatuated with that book. She's just like, Dad, have you checked this out? And she's like, you know, this book made me cry. You got to check out these poems. And
Well,
she, you know,
I've
gotta
been
say-
writing lyrics for 30 years and poetry.
Me too.
Poetry,
Me too.
and then once I got like a couple years ago, I got into poetry again after my brother died. And poetry is so powerful.
This stuff is so good. I mean, you know, maybe I'm biased, you know, but
My daughter loved it too.
I'm not a reader.
Well,
but
since you're
Barb
sleeping
is
with
a
the author, you might. be.
incredible friggin' writer. This girl, like I said, maybe I'm biased a little bit, but
Right,
you know, the
right.
power went out of my house one night, and I'm like, what am I going to do? You know, and I don't read; I write lyrics. You know,
Right.
I grabbed one of her books, and I'm like, holy shit! And
Right.
I'm like,
Yeah,
holy shit!
He
This
really
girl-
did.
Yeah, like I didn't have time for like a proper
I was like, I
response. Like,
underestimated you. You are a writer. Because
so I didn't have time for like a proper response a week ago, and it's like here's this deep thing that's posted. I'm like, I don't have time for a response, and it's like, oh, that's really.
Yeah.
But everything can't be fucking poetry in motion. I mean, Jesus Christ, you know.
But my daughter loves this book, and she said,
That's good.
So she read me a few of the poems, and I'm like, holy crap!
Yeah, Violet Sky is actually the character who is reboot a hippie chick.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, go back to your books.
Right. Okay. So now then we have. So this is a book of poetry. That's cool to know. Touched by
That's book
Darkness.
4. That's
What's that?
That's book 4 in the
That's
series.
book 4. Gotcha. Jason was also touched by darkness, but you won't talk about that.
Yeah, I buried that.
I must have done the darkness thing twice. I don't know. Understand what's going on
That's
with
cool.
my
It's a good
download.
cover.
But yeah, so you can find all your stuff at
You can find all my stuff on Amazon. A few of the titles are on Barnes and Noble online, and a few more are making their way into the Barnes and Noble stores.
right. And so how was your fight to get it into the stores, the proper stores?
Go ahead, tell them a story.
I didn't have to fight.
Well, that's good.
You know, we're in Barnes and Noble one day, and I'm looking for books because that's what I do.
Right.
Darren comes wandering over with his little piece of paper in his hand, and I'm like, "What's that?" And he says, "Oh, that's the email that you need because you're going to be doing a book signing here." He was over in a section that they had local author books highlighted. And
nice.
he went up to them and basically said, "My girlfriend's a writer, and how do we get her books in here?" So they were very interested, and they're pulling a few into this store.
Where are you
Right.
located?
I
Where are you? Where do you live? Where are you now?
I'm in Forestburg, New York.
Oh, okay. All right.
And your book signing will be at a Barnes and Nobles in what town?
In Vestal, it's
in
Binghamton,
What day? What time?
October 22nd from 12 to 4.
And you'll have plenty of books to purchase.
We will have plenty of books and giveaways, and I'm going to do some readings from probably Step and also the one that just came out, the True Ghost Stories and Hauntings.
Nice. Well, I own Vaudeville Press, and what Vaudeville Press does, we offer other authors a place of protection. You keep your rights, but we will protect you, and we'll also, because our business has been film and television, we'll negotiate on your behalf, take a slight percentage, but it's like United Artists was when Charlie Chaplin started it. We're here to protect the artist. You don't have to have a company. We will protect you. We'll put our imprint on it. We're not taking 80%. We take a very low percentage, but we also help you market your book and get stuff out there. And as a publishing company, we can go to other publishers across the 185 different territories and resell on your behalf. So that's what we're trying to do with the Vaudeville Press. But October 29th, we are having, you guys are invited. Anyone who wants to come on, we're having a costume party. So Jason will be dressed up as a goat herder. But so if you guys want to come on, we're gonna have a costume party. It'll just we'll tell some ghost stories, get some spooky stuff going.
Yeah,
if you're available, so we can have 10 people on. So that's kind of where we're going. But so what are your thoughts?
Okay.
Like when we were growing up in the 80s was a great time for horror.
Yeah.
If you were a horror fan, there was 1,000 B movies that were good. They're so shitty they were good. Basket Case, one of my favorite movies of all time. It was shot for like $12. Now they think the gorier, the scarier, which is not the case.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible.
The less you see, the more heightened.
The psychological terror is so much deeper than a bunch of blood and guts on the screen.
Oh yeah, totally. Now they just go, "Oh my God, you voted for Trump!" Oh no, I didn't. I voted for fucking Scooby Doo. Right. But like everyone, like, oh my God, that's like the scariest thing to them. But it's weird, I've never been a huge fan of vampires. To me, the vampire thing has been so overdone. Who cares? So when you come up with an original take on it, like what was it? There was a Netflix series last year with Hamish playing the lead. He played a Catholic priest, and it was a retelling of the vampire, and they did a brilliant job. Normally, I cannot stand vampire stories.
Well, unless they're the originals.
Yeah.
If you go back to the original, you go back, to
Midnight Mass is what it was called.
Okay.
Great show. Watch it. It's 10 episodes, one season and done. Amazing storytelling. This guy did he redid the Telling of Blythe Manor. House on the Hill. He's redone all these great, and now he's got a show out that just came out. It's a bunch of teenagers. It's a TA novel based on, but it's all teenagers in hospice, and it becomes a haunting story. So I've yet to see that. But he really has a handle. Like he's like the new Stephen King, but of like television or streaming shows. And, I think Twilight kind of screwed the horror genre
it did.
in a way.
Yeah, it did.
But it was good for YA authors.
Sure.
But also screwed another genre, of what people would normally watch. I'm not big into sparkling vampires myself.
No.
But all right, Barb.
Yes.
So tell everyone one last time where they can get your stuff, where your book signing is.
Oh, my book signing's in Binghamton on October 22nd in Barnes & Noble. My books are available on Amazon, and you can look them up on Barnes & Noble online. And you can find my website, barbshadow.com. You can also get all the information about my books and upcoming events at fromtheshadowspublishing.com.
Right on, right on. And we'd like to welcome you to the podcast family.
Thank
You
you.
have another member like 2 feet from you.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Thank you, brother, for being on. We appreciate it. And
Thank
you
you
guys
guys
are
so
welcome
much.
to the Halloween show on the 29th if you'd like to show
Cool.
up.
Yeah.
In costume, of course.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
so, okay, everybody. Hey, if you need to talk to someone, please do. It only takes a second, and it could save your life, literally. And other than that, enjoy your spooky Halloween. Barb, thank you for coming on. We appreciate
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you.
it.
Thanks,
Again,
Barb.
everyone, go to
Nice meeting you.
barbshadow.com. Buy her books. All of them. There's how many?
There's 4 in the series. The new one is the True Ghosts, Stories and Hauntings, and the Book of Poetry, Among the Dying Violets.
There you go. If you're in a series, you can buy 4 right now. If you're into poetry, you can buy 1. Also buy buy the first one in the series, and of course,
Yes.
buy the poetry because people can
Because
learn a
Darren's
lot.
daughter says it's good.
Absolutely. All right, you guys have a great one. Thank you for
Yep.
giving us part of your time on your time out of town. So
Yeah.
enjoy your adult alone time.
Darren, love you, man.
Thanks.
Love you, brother.
Good to see you, Jay.
Have a
All right,
good
buddy.
one. Okay.
See y'all.
That was awesome. All right. So, very interesting. The EMP thing to me has always been an iffy thing.
Yeah.
You know, because what broadcast are you really picking up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is possible, as we know, things can bleed
Right.
over.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah, some of them were very clear though, you know. I mean,
yeah, the one that was clear kind of threw me because they're
Yeah.
usually not clear.
yeah.
So I could see someone like, okay, they're at a theater
Yeah.
that's known for being haunted. They know they have EMP stuff. So you have someone in the building somewhere or adjacent to,
Yeah.
very easy
Right.
to do. But
Yeah. Easy enough to fake. That's true.
absolutely. All right, so you can go and unfake your sleepiness and go nice because you've had a long week.
Yeah,
Steve,
dude,
thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for having me. It was fun.
Absolutely. It was, I'm glad we got to have your take on this. Love you guys.
All right,
And
man. Love you guys.
Love
we
you
will
too.
see you soon.
All right.
And
take
remember, everybody, if I don't know, I was going to say something profound, but
Yeah, you lost it.
I lost it.